The exhausted waitress barely had time to breathe as she juggled orders, but when her daughter dashed across the restaurant and clung to the millionaire at table 5, calling him Daddy, the entire room fell silent. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Sarah's day began before dawn, just as it always did. She woke up in the cramped living room of her one-bedroom apartment, her 5-year-old daughter, Lily, curled up on the worn sofa. The gentle hum of the nearby highway trickled through the thin walls. Sarah rubbed her eyes, put on her uniform, an off-white blouse and black slacks faded from too many washes, and prepared herself for another long shift at the only restaurant in town that had given her a chance when she had no references, no college degree, and no one else to lean on. She gathered Lily's small backpack, which contained a coloring book, a few crayons, and a frayed stuffed bunny that had seen better days. Today, yet again, she had no one to babysit her daughter. The usual sitter had canceled at the last minute, leaving Sarah with a single difficult choice: bring Lily along and hope the manager wouldn't notice. Or if he did, maybe he'd at least have the heart not to punish her for it. At 6 in the morning, mother and daughter headed out under clouds that threatened rain. Lily clutched Sarah's hand, her bright eyes scanning the empty sidewalks. "Mommy," she asked softly, "why do I have to stay with you at work again?" There was no blame in her voice, just that childlike curiosity Sarah adored. "Because," Sarah replied, forcing a tender smile, "I can't leave you alone. It'll be fun, sweetie. You can draw, and you'll get to see all the people who come in for breakfast." Secretly, Sarah's heart was heavy. She yearned for a life in which Lily had everything: a real bedroom, a yard to play in, birthday parties with colorful balloons, new dolls. But life had turned out differently, especially after Lily's father, a man Sarah had thought she loved, abandoned them both without a backward glance. Since then, every day was a battle of budgeted groceries, second-hand clothes, and a mother's unwavering determination to give her daughter some sort of normalcy. The restaurant, the Amber Diner, sat near the edge of town. Despite its small size, it was a popular spot for passing truck drivers and early morning workers. The smell of bacon and freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, seeping into Sarah's blouse even before she clocked in. When she stepped inside, the warmth of the kitchen contrasted with the cool morning breeze. Lily's wide eyes sparked with excitement at seeing the rows of booths and shiny metal stools. Immediately, the manager, Mr. Parker, a stout man with a mustache and a wrinkled brow, noticed Sarah leading Lily by the hand. His stern expression made Sarah's chest tighten. "Sarah," he said quietly, glancing around to see if the other waitresses were watching. "You know the rules. We've been over this." Sarah swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Parker." The sitter canceled again. "Lily will be no trouble. She'll just color in the corner and keep to herself." Mr. Parker let out a tired sigh, rubbing his temples as if warding off a headache. "Fine," he muttered, "but keep her out of the way. We can't have customers complaining." Relief flooded Sarah's eyes. She guided Lily to an empty booth at the back, handed her the crayons, and whispered instructions to stay put, draw, and wait until Mommy's shift ended. Lily nodded dutifully, swinging her legs above the floor, excitement blooming on her face because she secretly liked seeing her mom at work. There was a novelty in hearing the clang of dishes and forks, the chatter of hungry patrons, the swirl of waiters hustling through with trays in hand. Sarah then tied on her apron and hurried into the kitchen, where cooktops sizzled with scrambled eggs, and the older chef, Darren, offered her a quick, understanding nod. The morning rush came in waves. It was a blur of coffee refills, balancing trays heaped with plates of pancakes, and politely apologizing when a customer complained about overcooked bacon. Through it all, Sarah kept a watchful eye on Lily, who scribbled away in her coloring book, occasionally smiling at the other waitresses who passed by. But the real trouble, or perhaps the real miracle, began around noon, when a tall man with impeccably tailored attire entered. He stepped inside with a quiet confidence that seemed out of place in the humble diner. His name was Michael, though Sarah wouldn't learn that until later. With broad shoulders, neatly groomed hair, and a watch that looked more expensive than her entire month's wages, he made even the small restaurant booth feel like a VIP lounge. A couple of customers glanced his way. Sarah had seen that reaction before. A presence like his didn't go unnoticed. The hostess, Lizzie, seated him at table 5, right in Sarah's section. Sarah's heart lurched when she saw him. There was something about the way he carried himself, the quiet authority in his gaze, that made her feel both uneasy and oddly aware of her own wrinkled uniform. But she had a job to do. With Lily safely occupied, Sarah grabbed her notepad and forced a pleasant smile as she approached the table. "Welcome to the Amber Diner," she said, doing her best to sound upbeat. "Can I get you something to drink?" Michael looked up from a phone in his hand, an ultra-sleek device Sarah had never seen before. His eyes were a mesmerizing shade of gray, a color that gave nothing away, yet seemed to take everything in. After a moment, he cleared his throat. "Just water, thank you." As Sarah hurried away to fetch his glass, she found it impossible to shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. She scolded herself for the thought. He was just another customer, after all, a man traveling through, likely with more important things on his mind than tipping a waitress. Minutes later, Sarah was at the counter preparing Michael's water when Lily appeared by her side. "Mommy," Lily said in a whisper, tugging at Sarah's apron, "I'm hungry." A pang of guilt washed over Sarah. She'd been so busy she'd forgotten to check if Lily needed a snack. The manager frowned from the other side of the room, but Lily's sweet face was impossible to turn away. "All right, baby. Just wait a second," Sarah murmured, rummaging through a cupboard for the peanut butter crackers she always kept for Lily. It was a small treat, but it was all she could offer. As she turned around to hand them to her daughter, Lily slipped from her grasp and began to wander near the tables. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. Lily knew she wasn't supposed to approach the customers, especially during rush hour, but Lily's curiosity got the better of her. She glanced at table 5, noticing Michael's refined suit and the phone lying next to his plate. Perhaps he reminded her of something, or perhaps in the honest way children sometimes see deeper truths. She sensed something important about him. Before Sarah could intervene, Lily raced right up to Michael's booth. To Sarah's horror, Lily threw her tiny arms around the astonished stranger's waist, pressing her face against the crisp fabric of his jacket. "Daddy," Lily exclaimed, her voice echoing loud enough for half the diner to hear. Time seemed to stop. Silverware clinked, and a hush fell over the tables. Sarah dropped the glass of water she was holding. Ice cubes and droplets exploded across the tiled floor. The manager gawked from the far side of the room. The other patrons turned in unison, eyes wide, muttering in confusion. Michael froze. For an instant, Sarah thought he was about to get angry, or perhaps push Lily away. Instead, his expression morphed from shock to something else, confusion tinged with a strange longing. He looked down at Lily, who clung to him with the fearless affection of a child. Then, almost instinctively, he gently placed his hand on her back. Sarah felt her heart pounding in her ears. 1,000 questions surged through her mind. Why did Lily call him Daddy? Had Lily mistaken him for someone else? Or was there something more? Sarah's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, fear, and the slightest flicker of hope that she didn't yet dare to name. She rushed forward, carefully prying Lily away from the man in the suit. "Lily, sweetheart, you can't just—" But Lily's eyes were unwavering, almost certain, as if she recognized him from a memory no one else could see. Meanwhile, Michael stared at both Sarah and Lily with the intensity of someone who just discovered a secret he never asked for. The entire diner seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his response. Yet for the longest moment, he said nothing. Finally, in a low voice that somehow reached Sarah's ears above the hush, Michael spoke. "Her name is Lily?" he asked. There was a tremor in his tone, an undercurrent of something that Sarah couldn't quite decipher. Sarah's mouth went dry. She nodded, fighting back tears of panic and confusion. She managed to whisper, "Yes, Lily." Outside, the rain that had been threatening all day finally began to pour, drumming against the diner's windows as if urging the events inside to reach their conclusion. The hush deepened, the tension so thick Sarah felt like she could taste it. This man, Michael, seemed to be grappling with a wave of realization. Would he laugh off the strange moment and walk away? Would he demand an explanation? Or would this pivotal meeting lead them all down a path none of them could have possibly predicted? Sarah couldn't tell if the air had gone hot or cold. It felt like both at once. The entire diner remained caught in silence, as if time itself had paused for these three figures at table 5. Lily, still firmly believing she had hugged her real father, glanced from Michael to her mother, confusion dancing in her big, curious eyes. Sarah wanted to speak, to say anything that could diffuse the awkwardness, but her tongue felt like it was made of lead. Michael, meanwhile, looked as though 1,000 emotions battled inside him. After what seemed like an eternity, he slid out of the booth, the legs of the seat scraping against the linoleum floor in a discordant squeal. He crouched so he was eye level with Lily, an odd gentleness crossing his features. Lily. He repeated her name with deliberation, as if testing out each syllable. Then his gaze flicked upward to Sarah. "You're her mother?" A flush spread across Sarah's cheeks, a blur of embarrassment and residual shock. "Yes," she answered softly. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't know why she—" Before Sarah could finish, Lily piped up in her soft, clear voice. "Mommy, he looks like the man in my dreams." She said it as if it were the most obvious thing in the world, then pointed at Michael's watch. "He has shiny things, too. Daddy always has shiny things." Sarah's heart pounded. "Sweetheart," she whispered. "We'll talk about this in a minute, okay?" Though she tried to sound calm, a quake in her voice betrayed how rattled she was. She turned to Michael, preparing a hasty apology. Instead, she found herself transfixed by his expression. Michael's face looked torn, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Could it be pity, or was it something else? The manager cleared his throat from behind Sarah, forcibly reminding them all of the setting. Is everything all right here?" Mr. Parker asked, sending Sarah a pointed stare. She winced, fearing he was about to banish her and Lily from the premises. But Michael shook off whatever trance he'd been in. "Yes," he answered, his voice firm. "Everything is fine." He looked at Lily again, then stood, smoothing the lapels of his tailored suit jacket, which now had slight wrinkles from the unexpected hug. "It's just a misunderstanding." Mr. Parker, thoroughly uncomfortable but relieved to avoid a scene, nodded curtly and waddled off to quell the curious onlookers. Sarah breathed out, realizing she'd been holding her breath this entire time. Lily clung to Sarah's apron, uncertain whether she was in trouble. "Hey, Munchkin, why don't you go back to the booth and color for a bit?" Sarah suggested, trying her best to mask the trembling in her throat. Lily obeyed, though not without one last lingering look at Michael. When Lily was out of earshot, Sarah faced him, arms folded protectively over her chest. "Look, I'm sorry about this. She must have confused you for—" She stopped short, suddenly unsure how to label Lily's father. Ex-boyfriend, runaway dad, a heartbreak from the past. "For someone else," she concluded lamely. Michael scrutinized her face with such intensity that Sarah's cheeks flared again. Finally, he spoke. "There's nothing to apologize for. Kids have wild imaginations." Yet the way he said it sounded almost hesitant, as if part of him suspected Lily's hug might mean more. He cleared his throat, cast a quick glance around the diner, aware that half the customers were still gawking, and then lifted his chin. "If you don't mind," he said quietly, "maybe we could talk about this in private after your shift. I have a few questions." Sarah blinked. The request took her by surprise. Questions? About what? Her tone wavered between guarded and curious. The last thing she needed was more complications. She could barely make rent. She had no mental space for wealthy strangers pressing her about Lily. But there was something compelling about the urgency in his voice, something that whispered this encounter was not some random coincidence. Michael wet his lips, weighing his words. It's just, I want to understand why she looked at me like that, and why she'd call me Daddy. He paused, noticing Sarah's anxious expression. I'm not accusing you of anything. I just need to know more. Sarah stared at him for a moment, uncertain how to respond. On one hand, her instincts screamed to keep Lily safe, to avoid letting a stranger insert himself into their fragile lives. On the other, she felt an unexpected sense of relief at his concern, as though the question of Lily's father might matter to someone besides her. All right, she conceded quietly, noticing her reflection in the shine of his watch. But not here. I get off at 2. Across the street there's a small park. We can talk there if you really want to. Michael gave a faint nod. Thank you, he said. Then he returned to his seat, his posture straighter than before, as though he'd just signed a high-stakes contract. Sarah slowly exhaled, trying to settle the flutter in her stomach. She felt as if she'd stepped onto a path with no clear direction, but she couldn't turn back now. Focus on your job, she reminded herself. She had tables to serve, orders to fill. The remainder of the shift passed like a haze. Sarah found it hard to concentrate, stumbling over basic tasks. She nearly spilled an entire pitcher of iced tea on a customer, who looked at her askance. Mr. Parker scolded her about it, but in a rare show of restraint, he didn't issue any formal warning. Maybe he sensed that Sarah was one more misfortune away from breaking down. At the end of the lunch rush, Michael stood, carefully placed a generous tip on the table, an amount that made Sarah's eyes widen, and left without a word. When Sarah gathered the dishes, she discovered his business card discreetly tucked beneath the napkin. Michael Davenport, CEO, Davenport Global Solutions, it read. Sarah whispered the name to herself, tasting each syllable. She'd never heard of Davenport Global Solutions, but she could guess from the sleek design of the card and the imposing job title that Michael was someone with wealth and power far beyond anything she'd ever known. Lily, napping in the corner booth, was still clutching a crayon in her small hand. Sarah pressed the card into her apron pocket, her thoughts a whirlwind. She couldn't help but question whether Lily's spontaneous outburst had unveiled something important, or was she hoping for a miracle that would never come? By 2 in the afternoon, with Lily roused and rubbing her eyes, Sarah finished her last table and hung up her apron in the back room. She waved goodbye to Darren in the kitchen, who gave her a thumbs up. Some part of her yearned to just run home, forgetting that she'd promised to meet Michael. But another part, a voice in her head that she couldn't ignore, told her that she needed answers too. And if this man had any clue about Lily's father or some strange connection, better to face it now. Gripping Lily's hand, she stepped out into the cloudy afternoon. The storm from earlier had faded, leaving the sidewalks damp and the air muggy. The park across the street was modest, a small patch of grass, a few benches, and a cluster of tired-looking trees. Most folks in town treated it as a shortcut rather than a hangout. Yet there, on a wooden bench beneath a scraggly oak tree, sat Michael, scrolling through his phone. When he spotted them, he stood up, slipping the device into his jacket pocket. Lily recognized him instantly, her face brightening with that trusting smile only a child can give. Sarah felt her heart pinch, still unsure if this was wise. Michael greeted them politely, then gestured for Sarah to sit. She settled onto the bench, Lily perched next to her, swinging her feet. Michael looked down at Lily, offering her the slightest smile. So, he began softly, I'm not usually at a loss for words, but I'm not sure where to start. Sarah forced a small laugh, though it sounded hollow. Welcome to my life. They let the quiet settle in for a moment. Lily tugged at Sarah's sleeve, then whispered, "I'm thirsty, Mommy." Michael immediately offered to get her a juice from the cafe across the street, but Sarah shook her head, fishing a small water bottle from Lily's backpack. "All right," Michael said once Lily took a sip and returned to her coloring. "I'll get to the point. Do you know me from somewhere? Or did you know my family?" The question drifted into the air like an arrow searching for a target. Sarah bit her lip. "No," she replied honestly. "I've never seen you before today." Michael nodded, his expression unreadable. "Look, I have to ask. Who is Lily's father? I know it's a personal question, but this is all too strange." Sarah swallowed. She didn't want to say his name, not after the pain he'd inflicted by vanishing when Lily was just a baby. "He's gone," she answered simply, a guarded tremor in her voice. "He left us without a word. We haven't heard from him in years." Michael's brow furrowed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I know it must be hard. But do you think Lily's reaction, the way she ran to me, could she have seen a photo of me somewhere? Or is there some link between your ex and me?" Sarah's eyes stung with tears she refused to let fall. "I have no idea," she whispered. "But I doubt it. My ex wasn't exactly living the kind of life you seem to have. We struggled from day one. He never wore fancy suits. And to be honest," she added, voice softening, "your face doesn't remind me of him at all." They both glanced at Lily, who hummed quietly while coloring a bright sun across the page. The child seemed peacefully unaware of the tension between the adults. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead. Michael took a moment before speaking again, the swirl of city traffic in the background. "Maybe it's just a coincidence," he said, trying to hide a flicker of disappointment. Then he leaned forward, looking at Lily's drawings. "She's talented," he murmured, searching for any easy topic to bridge the awkwardness. "She is," Sarah agreed, a proud glint in her eyes. Lily glanced up from her crayon. "You make me think of Daddy 'cause of your watch," she declared boldly. "Mommy said Daddy used to have an old watch he liked a lot, and you have a watch too." Michael blinked at his own wrist, as though noticing the expensive timepiece for the first time. The watch face gleamed in the fading sunlight. "Well," he managed, forcing a gentle smile, "I guess not many kids call a person Daddy just because of a watch." Lily's innocent gaze didn't waver. "Not just the watch," she insisted. "Your eyes are sad like how mommies get sometimes." Sarah's breath caught. Michael inhaled sharply, unprepared for the raw sincerity of a child's observation. He cleared his throat, then turned to Sarah, rummaging for words. I don't know what to say. This is all so unexpected." Sarah nodded, wishing there were an easy explanation. But there wasn't. She felt a pang in her chest, recalling Lily's father's last words, "I can't do this," before he slammed the door and disappeared. Maybe Lily carried a memory of that heartbreak, mixing it with her own imagination, creating a father figure wherever she sensed the possibility of safety and comfort. They let a long silence pass. Finally, Michael checked the time and sighed regretfully. "I need to head to a meeting soon." "But, Sarah," he said quietly, "would it be all right if I checked in on you and Lily again? I'm not sure why, but I feel like I should." Nerves tightened in Sarah's stomach. Should she say yes? What if he grew obsessed with some misguided sense of responsibility? Or what if he genuinely wanted to help? She studied his face. Amid the polished exterior of a powerful CEO, she saw warmth and maybe a trace of longing. "All right," she answered at last, carefully. "But I'm not promising anything. My daughter and we've had enough disappointments. I don't want to confuse her or—" She trailed off, not knowing how to wrap her fears into neat phrases. "I understand," Michael murmured, straightening his jacket. Then he bent down to Lily. "It was nice meeting you." he said, his voice gentle as a summer breeze. Lily gave a shy wave, scribbling the final touches on her drawing. Bye-bye. With that, Michael turned and walked away, heading for a gleaming black car parked at the curb. Sarah watched him slip into the driver's seat. He stared at the steering wheel for a long moment before finally driving off. As mother and daughter left the park, Sarah felt every step weighted with fresh questions. Why did Michael look so haunted? Why did Lily take to him so fast? And most unsettling, was there a hidden piece of the puzzle connecting them? Or would this turn out to be nothing but a strange passing incident? In her pocket, she still had Michael's business card. Somehow she knew this wasn't the last time she'd hold it in her hand. Sunlight pooled through the sheer curtains of Sarah's apartment the next morning, casting a gentle glow on the chipped coffee table and the small second-hand sofa where Lily lay sprawled, coloring a page from her book. It was Saturday, her day off from kindergarten, and Sarah allowed her the small treat of staying in pajamas a bit longer. Sarah sipped lukewarm tea at the table, her mind tangled in thoughts of Michael Davenport. She kept replaying the moment Lily had called him Daddy, the shock on his face, and the strange mixture of sadness and curiosity in his eyes. She reached into her pocket and drew out his business card, running her thumb over the elegant lettering. Davenport Global Solutions, CEO. In her world, that might as well have meant a king in a castle. She hated to admit it, but part of her was oddly excited by the idea that someone with resources might take an interest, no matter how fleeting, in her and Lily's well-being. Life had been an endless cycle of double shifts, daycare fees she could barely afford, and the unwavering fear of not knowing how to shield her little girl from the hardships of the world. Yet beneath that excitement lay a bristling caution. Her life had taught her to be wary of people who appeared out of nowhere offering help. Lily hummed contentedly, filling in a drawing of a princess with bright purple hair. "Mommy, can we have pancakes for breakfast?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder. Sarah managed a tired smile. "Sure thing, sweet pea. Give me a minute." She stood, rummaging through the pantry and fridge. Pancakes meant flour, eggs, milk, and milk was running low. She shook the carton to find only a few drops left. With a soft sigh, she realized she'd have to improvise or run to the corner store, but money was so tight she couldn't even indulge in a full gallon without worrying about next week's groceries. Before she could decide, a gentle knock at the door startled her. She rarely had visitors. Checking the time, just past 8, she approached the door cautiously, motioning Lily to stay put. Through the peephole she glimpsed a woman with neatly pulled back hair and a professional-looking blazer, balancing a slim folder in one hand. Sarah cracked the door open a couple of inches, heart pounding. "Yes?" "Hello, I'm looking for Ms. Sarah Morgan," the woman said, sounding polite and composed. "My name is Vanessa Pierce. I'm Mr. Davenport's personal assistant." Sarah tensed. Michael? He'd sent someone to her doorstep? She opened the door fully but held it in place with her foot, unsettled by the unexpected visit. "That's me," she managed. "Can I help you?" Vanessa nodded in a businesslike manner. "Mr. Davenport asked me to drop off a few things. Some groceries and other items. It's a small gesture of thanks for your time yesterday. He also wanted to ensure Lily had, what she might need." Sarah's pulse skipped. Groceries? This was beyond surreal. She peered past Vanessa's shoulder and indeed spotted several large paper bags stacked in the hallway. Her immediate reaction was to refuse. She'd been taught to stand on her own 2 feet, and the idea of charity stung her pride. But then she thought of Lily. Accepting help, even from someone she barely knew, might ease her daily struggles just a bit. Swallowing her pride, she stepped aside to let Vanessa bring in the bags. Lily peeked over the sofa, curious. As soon as she saw the grocery bags, her face lit up with innocent enthusiasm. "Is that cereal?" she asked excitedly, spotting the colorful boxes. Sarah felt a mix of gratitude and embarrassment, unsure how to handle the situation. Vanessa placed the bags on the kitchen counter, each meticulously labeled, containing fruits, vegetables, fresh milk, and other items far nicer than Sarah would typically buy. Sarah noticed a package of children's vitamins and a small box of crayons hidden among them. It was thoughtful, perhaps too thoughtful, because it left her uneasy. "He really didn't have to do this," Sarah murmured. "I can manage fine on my own." Vanessa offered a tight smile, as though accustomed to hearing such protests. "I understand, but Mr. Davenport insisted. He says you can consider it a thank you, or an apology if his presence caused you any trouble at work. If there's anything you don't need, you can donate it. No strings attached." Sarah pressed her lips together, torn between gratitude and suspicion. "Well, please thank him for me. I appreciate it." Vanessa paused, flipping open the folder she carried. "He also asked me to give you his direct contact information." She handed Sarah a typed sheet with a personal number and an email address that likely bypassed the usual corporate gatekeepers. "He'd like to speak with you again, at your convenience, of course. There's no rush, but he was hoping you and Lily might join him for lunch or dinner sometime soon." Sarah glanced at the paper. Everything about it, Michael's direct line, the brand new groceries, felt like a world so different from her own. I'll think about it," she replied quietly. "Understood," Vanessa said. "Here's my card as well. Feel free to call if you have any questions." With that, she gathered her folder and offered Lily a friendly wave. Lily waved back, wide-eyed. A moment later, Vanessa slipped out the door as quickly as she'd arrived, leaving Sarah staring at the bounty on her kitchen counter. Lily jumped off the sofa, sprinting to look at each item. "Mommy, can we have strawberries too?" she squealed, reaching for a bright red carton. Sarah nodded in a daze. "Sure, sweet pea." 10 minutes later, the apartment smelled of fresh strawberries and pancake batter. As Sarah spooned batter onto the hot skillet, she kept glancing at the closed door, mind churning. She felt grateful. Of course she did. Yet she couldn't shake the worry that letting a man like Michael Davenport into her life might come with complications far beyond free groceries. But Lily was thrilled to have her favorite cereal back in the pantry, and that alone was enough to make Sarah's heart flutter with relief. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to at least hear Michael out. She recalled how genuine he seemed yesterday, how he hadn't flinched at Lily's bold affection, how he'd left that extraordinary tip without showy fanfare. Could it be that behind his wealthy facade stood a man who truly cared? She pushed away the swirl of conflicting thoughts for now and focused on flipping pancakes. Lily giggled as they sizzled on the pan, sending up the sweet smell of vanilla batter. For the first time in ages, Sarah allowed herself to indulge in a small moment of hope, that maybe, just maybe, her daughter's life was about to change for the better. Later that day, after Lily had finished a hearty breakfast and begun to amuse herself with a new coloring set from one of the grocery bags, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand. She'd spent the last hour cleaning up the apartment and mentally rehearsing what she might say if she dared call Michael. In the end, she couldn't quite dial his number. Instead, she typed a short text message. "Hello, Mr. Davenport. This is Sarah from the diner. Thank you for the groceries. Lily and I appreciate it. Let me know if you still want to meet. Sarah Morgan." She stared at the screen. Was that too brief? Too curt? Too formal? Before she could overthink it further, she pressed send. Her heart pounded. Almost instantly, she regretted contacting him, worried it looked like she was accepting a debt she might not be able to repay. But she forced herself to stay calm. He said no strings, she reminded herself. The phone vibrated 2 minutes later. She jumped, nearly dropping it. "I'm glad you received them. Hope Lily enjoys. Would love to meet for lunch or dinner. Whenever you're comfortable. Michael." She exhaled, chest easing from tension. Glancing at the clock, she realized it was still early afternoon. Lily needed a nap soon. She always got cranky if she skipped it. Maybe they could plan for early next week. But her next day off wasn't until Wednesday, and Lily had school. Juggling her schedule in her mind, she tapped out a reply. "I work full shifts next few days. Maybe Wednesday afternoon if that's okay? My daughter is in school until 2. Sarah." Michael responded almost at once, as though he'd been waiting. "Wednesday afternoon works. Let's pick Lily up together, and then we can grab an early dinner. I'll text details soon. Sarah's throat constricted. The idea of picking Lily up from school with Michael felt strangely intimate. But she nodded to herself. Maybe it was a chance to let Lily see him again in a calmer, more normal scenario, where she wouldn't be calling him Daddy out of the blue. She typed a final acknowledgement. "Okay, talk soon." Setting the phone down, she noticed Lily peeking in from the living room. "Mommy, can we play outside now?" Sarah's gaze drifted to the window. The sky was bright, the day fairly mild. She needed fresh air anyway. "Yes, let's do that," she said, standing and grabbing a light sweater for Lily. They walked 3 blocks to a small playground. Lily made a beeline for the swings, and Sarah trailed behind, scanning her daughter's face for any sign that she was still fixating on Michael. Children were resilient but also surprisingly intuitive. "Mommy, push me." Lily grinned, wriggling onto a swing. Sarah obliged, gentle at first, then a bit higher as Lily squealed with laughter, her hair flying in the breeze. For a moment, Sarah let go of her worries, immersing herself in the simple joy of seeing her daughter happy. But the peace was short-lived. Out of the corner of her eye, Sarah spotted a figure leaning against the chain-link fence at the edge of the playground. At first, she thought it was just another parent, but something about the stance felt off. A man, dressed in inconspicuous jeans and a baseball cap, was watching them too intently, arms folded. A chill ran through Sarah's spine. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was waiting for his own child, but she didn't see any kid near him. Maybe he was just resting. Yet as she continued pushing Lily, she noticed him shift his position to keep them in view. "Lily, sweetie, how about we do something else now, huh?" Sarah's voice trembled with forced calm. She brought the swing to a stop and gently helped Lily down. "Okay," Lily said, confused, "but I want to stay longer." Sarah led her daughter toward the opposite exit. She resisted the urge to look back at the man, worried any reaction might provoke him. Once they were out of the playground, she glanced over her shoulder. He was gone, as if vanished into thin air. Her heart hammered. She couldn't shake the sense that something was amiss. Was she just being paranoid? Or could Michael's sudden involvement in their lives have triggered unwanted attention from someone who might not want him helping her? Sarah had heard stories about wealthy men with complicated enemies or suspicious circumstances swirling around them. Clutching Lily's hand, she walked briskly home, scanning every corner and alley. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the fear lingered, long after she'd locked the apartment door behind them. This new twist left Sarah rattled. She glanced at the bounty of groceries again, now a silent reminder that her life was no longer as simple, though difficult, as it used to be. The next few days might bring answers, or they might bring trouble. Either way, Sarah had a sense that something bigger than she'd ever faced was about to unfold. Sarah's nerves remained on edge the rest of the weekend. She kept replaying the moment at the playground, wondering if the man in the cap had been truly watching them or if she had just become overly skittish since Michael Davenport entered her life. A gut feeling told her it hadn't been a coincidence. Still, she refused to let fear dictate her every move. On Sunday evening, she prepped Lily's things for the next school day, checking homework, laying out an outfit, and making sure the battered pink backpack had no rips. She also cooked a simple pasta dinner using some of the fresh ingredients Michael's assistant had delivered. Each bite reminded her that accepting his generosity might have consequences she couldn't fully predict. After Lily was tucked into bed, Sarah finally allowed herself a quiet moment. She huddled at the small kitchen table, staring at the phone. She debated texting Michael about the stranger at the playground. but concluded it sounded too paranoid. He'd probably wonder if she was prone to wild imaginings. Instead, she resolved to keep her guard up at least until their scheduled meetup on Wednesday. The days leading up to Wednesday crawled by. Work at the diner proved hectic, with Mr. Parker in an unusually testy mood. Maybe the memory of Lily hugging a customer still weighed on him, or maybe it was the stress of a new inventory system that kept glitching. Either way, Sarah found herself running double speed, wiping tables, refilling coffee, and plastering a polite smile for the lunch crowd. She earned a few decent tips, though nowhere near as large as Michael's, and by Tuesday night, she'd managed to scrape together enough to cover Lily's overdue lunch fees at school. Her sleep was restless, haunted by half-formed dreams in which Lily ran into the arms of a faceless figure, only for Sarah to lose them both in a maze of shadowy corridors. She woke each morning with a sense of unease that refused to fade. Finally, Wednesday arrived. Sarah spent the morning shift tidying the diner. It was a quiet day, rain threatened outside, and most customers chose to stay home. By noon, Mr. Parker allowed her to leave early, muttering something about cutting labor costs. Sarah tried not to take it personally. In truth, she was glad to have extra time to get home and change. She rummaged through her closet, searching for something presentable yet comfortable. Most of her clothes were either worn uniforms or casual t-shirts. She settled on a simple blue blouse she'd found on sale months ago, pairing it with dark jeans that had no holes yet. Her reflection in the tiny mirror over her dresser made her cringe. She thought she looked tired, but maybe a quick splash of cold water would help. By 1:45, Sarah set out to walk the few blocks to Lily's school. The sky remained overcast, but the rain had yet to fall, leaving the air thick with humidity. She tried to calm the swarm of butterflies in her stomach, reminding herself that this was just a casual meeting. Michael had offered to pick them up, but Sarah insisted on meeting him outside Lily's school first. She wanted to see Lily's reaction to him again in a normal setting. No big dramatic hugs calling him daddy, no wide-eyed confusion from onlookers. The elementary building was a modest single-story structure ringed by a fenced-in playground. A handful of parents were already waiting near the front doors, chatting idly. Sarah joined them, scanning the street for Michael's car. She noticed no sign of him, at least not yet. Lily burst through the doors precisely at 2:00, carrying a taped-up art project and wearing a bright grin that melted Sarah's lingering tension. "Mommy!" Lily shouted, bounding forward. "I drew a new picture. It's a puppy this time." Sarah crouched, smiling as she took in Lily's big excitement. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I can't wait to see it. Hey, remember I told you we might meet Mr. Davenport today?" Lily nodded. "He's nice," she said, voice innocent. "He gave us cereal." Before Sarah could reply, the rumble of a sleek engine drew her attention. A black luxury car pulled up along the curb. The passenger window slid down, and there he was, Michael Davenport, wearing a crisp button-down shirt, his posture radiating that quiet confidence she remembered. He offered a wave. Sarah guided Lily across the sidewalk, heart pounding despite the ordinary nature of the scene. Michael stepped out, walking around to greet them. "Hello," he said softly, meeting Lily's gaze. "How was school?" Lily blinked up at him. For a moment, Sarah worried her daughter might call him daddy again. Instead, Lily held up her artwork. "I made a puppy," she declared. Michael's face warmed with an unguarded smile. "That's wonderful. You're quite an artist." He looked to Sarah, an unspoken question in his eyes. "Is everything okay?" Sarah responded with a slight nod and a tentative smile. They climbed into Michael's car, Lily buckling herself in the back seat with Sarah beside her. The car's interior was all smooth leather and subtle scents of cologne. Lily marveled at the tinted windows and asked if she could roll them down. Michael politely explained they were automatic, pressing a button so she could see how it worked. Lily giggled, thoroughly entertained. As they drove, Sarah tried to appear relaxed, though her pulse thundered. Michael began making small talk, asking Lily about her favorite subjects. Reading, Lily said. She loved stories, especially about princesses who rescued themselves. I'm writing one too, Lily boasted, about a princess with purple hair. That's impressive, Michael replied, his gaze briefly meeting Sarah's in the rearview mirror. You'll have to show me sometime. Eventually, they pulled into a cozy family restaurant at the edge of town, nicer than the typical fast food chains, but still casual enough for Lily to feel at ease. No white tablecloths, no silent waiters. It had a bright interior, a small play corner for children, and a separate booth area that offered privacy. While a hostess led them to a corner booth, Lily ran off to inspect the little kids' station, where crayons and paper menus beckoned. Michael watched her fondly, then turned back to Sarah. She's a confident girl, he observed. You've raised her well. Sarah felt a flush of pride despite herself. Thank you, she said, sliding into the booth. It hasn't been easy, but she's a good kid. Always has been. Michael cleared his throat. I'm sure it's been difficult on your own. If there's ever anything you need... Sarah lifted a hand gently, stopping him. I appreciate that, but please understand, I'm not looking for a handout. He nodded, lips pursed. I know, and I respect that. For a moment, he seemed to weigh his next words. That said, I'd like to at least be around. If Lily enjoys my company, maybe I can help out from time to time. It doesn't have to be about money or anything, just someone you can rely on. Sarah tried to read his expression. She saw no condescension, only genuine kindness. The sincerity in his voice startled her. Why? She asked softly. Why would you do that for us? His gaze dropped to the napkin he was fiddling with. I'm not entirely sure, he admitted. I feel a connection to Lily, and to you, in a way. I know how lonely it can be, especially if there's no father in the picture. My own father died when I was young. That left me searching for something. Maybe that's why I can't just walk away. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. She wanted to argue, to say she could manage alone, that Lily didn't need more heartbreak. But something about his quiet confession moved her. I'm sorry, she managed, for your father. He gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Right then, Lily came bounding back, brandishing crayons and menus. She plopped beside Sarah. They have spaghetti, she announced, pointing at the kids' section. Can I have that, Mommy? Sarah smiled down at her. Of course. Michael signaled a waiter who arrived promptly. They placed orders, spaghetti for Lily, a grilled chicken salad for Sarah, and Michael opted for a steak sandwich. Lily kept talking about her day, about a classmate who'd brought a pet frog for show and tell. She seemed completely at ease, even leaning toward Michael to show him a scribbled drawing of the frog. Sarah watched the two interact with a mix of relief and trepidation. She couldn't deny Lily's joyful acceptance of him, how her eyes lit up whenever he asked her a question. The dreaded word daddy didn't come up again, thank goodness, yet the sense of closeness forming between them was undeniable. They ate slowly, conversation flowing more naturally. Michael and Lily bantered about silly topics. Favorite ice cream flavors, the best color for a princess's hair, and what kind of pet Lily might want if they had a house big enough for animals. Meanwhile, Sarah joined in but remained cautious about letting her guard down too much. As the meal wound down, Michael checked his phone and frowned slightly. I'm sorry, he said, glancing at Sarah. I have to make a quick call for work. Would you be all right if I step outside for a minute? Sure, Sarah replied, busy wiping a dab of sauce off Lily's chin. Michael left, leaving behind the faint aroma of his cologne. Lily resumed coloring, humming a tune from her favorite cartoon. Sarah felt a flicker of normalcy, like this was just a quiet family lunch. But the moment she caught herself feeling that way, she stiffened. This wasn't a family. She had to remember that. Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. At first, she assumed it was a spam text, but the message made her pause. We need to talk. Stop meeting with Davenport or you'll regret it." Her blood ran cold. There was no number attached, just a blocked sender. A chill settled in her stomach. Who was this? And how did they know she was with Michael? The only possibility that came to mind was that mysterious figure at the playground, or someone connected to him. Sarah quickly looked around as if expecting to see someone standing behind them, but the other diners were families and couples, none paying close attention. Lily was oblivious, now crafting a silly face on her menu. With trembling hands, Sarah deleted the text. Michael returned a minute later, a worried crease on his brow. "Everything all right?" he asked. She plastered on a weak smile. "Yes, fine," she lied. "Everything's fine." But inside, panic churned. Her first instinct was to gather Lily and bolt. Another part of her snapped that she should confide in Michael. He was, after all, the only link to these new threats. Yet it felt too soon, too risky. She didn't want to rope him into her fears, especially when she wasn't certain what was happening. They finished the meal quietly, Lily none the wiser. Michael paid, brushing off Sarah's attempts to split the bill. "Please, allow me," he insisted, standing to walk them to the car. Outside, the rain had started, a gentle drizzle that threatened to intensify. Michael opened the passenger door for Sarah and Lily. "I can drive you home," he offered, looking at the darkening sky. She hesitated, phone still clutched in her hand. The text's words echoed in her mind. "Stop meeting with Davenport or you'll regret it." A gust of wind sent droplets across her cheek, snapping her from her daze. Maybe it was safer to let Michael drive them, rather than walk in the open. "Thank you," she murmured, helping Lily climb in. As the engine purred to life, Michael asked, "Are you sure you're okay? You seem nervous." Sarah forced a gentle laugh. "Just the weather. Didn't expect the rain so soon." He clearly didn't buy it, but he didn't press further. Lily chattered about the puddles forming outside, oblivious to the tension in the front seat. By the time they pulled up outside Sarah's apartment, the drizzle had become a steady downpour. Michael handed Sarah an umbrella from the back. "Thanks for dinner," Sarah said, trying to maintain composure. "And for everything." He offered a small nod. "I'll call you soon if that's all right." She found herself nodding, the threat text echoing in the back of her mind. She forced a final goodbye, then ushered Lily into the building. Her heart hammered as she watched his car drive away. The second she locked her apartment door behind them, her composure cracked. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Lily asked, tugging on Sarah's sleeve. "Nothing, sweet pea," Sarah lied, breathing heavily. "Just wet from the rain." Inside her chest, fear rose like a tide. Someone was warning her to stay away from Michael. Who and why? She didn't want to involve him in any danger, but it might already be too late. She stared at her phone, the screen black after she'd erased the text. Another memory surfaced, the suspicious figure at the playground. Could that man be tracking her phone number? Or had he been a hired eye for some reason? Sarah suspected that behind Michael's calm exterior and wealth, something bigger stirred. She had no illusions that a high-profile CEO was immune to enemies or corporate intrigue. Yet Lily needed her to stay strong. Sarah carefully dried her daughter's hair, then took her into the bathroom to get her into warm pajamas. She forced a story-time ritual, hoping to calm both their nerves. But inside, her mind raced with questions. Should she warn Michael? Possibly. But he might dismiss it as her being paranoid. Or, if he took it seriously, he might try to push her further into his sphere of influence for protection. Another risk. She kissed Lily's forehead, tucking her under blankets, and pulled the bedroom door half shut. Then she sank onto her sofa, alone in the dark. She clutched the phone and stared into the silent gloom. All her life, Sarah had fought to keep her daughter safe from heartbreak, from poverty, from a father who disappeared without remorse. Now, An unseen threat lurked outside, telling her to abandon the only man who'd shown genuine kindness in years. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. The question hammered in her mind. Who would want to scare her away from Michael Davenport, and how far would they go to make sure she stayed away? For the rest of that week, Sarah felt as if she were living two lives. By day, she was the dedicated waitress at the Amber Diner, tending to tables with a forced smile and ignoring the subtle aches in her back and feet. By night, she was a mother quietly battling fear, double-checking the locks, peering through the curtains whenever a car's headlights swept across the street, and clutching her phone in bed, half expecting another threatening message. No new text arrived, but that only made her more anxious, like the calm before a storm. Meanwhile, Michael kept his promise to check in. He sent a friendly text each morning, asking how Lily was doing, whether Sarah needed any help. Sometimes he asked if she felt safe at home, as if sensing her unease, but she always deflected, insisting everything was fine. She couldn't bring herself to confide in him about the ominous text or the figure at the playground. Part of her feared he'd try to swoop in with heavy-handed protection, intensifying the danger. Another part dreaded that once he saw what trouble might be lurking, he'd decide she wasn't worth the hassle. Sarah's biggest worry was Lily. The little girl continued her normal routine, school in the mornings, coming home to color in the afternoons, but she seemed to notice her mother's tension. More than once, Lily asked if they were going to see Michael again. "He's nice," she would say, or "he doesn't get mad like some grown-ups." Sarah would simply reply, "We'll see, sweet pea." And in truth, Sarah didn't know if seeing Michael was safe anymore. By Friday, the diner was abuzz with weekend travelers, so Sarah was on her feet from dawn until closing, clearing tables, running orders. That evening, as the last few customers trickled out and Mr. Parker flipped the neon sign to closed, Sarah collapsed into a chair to catch her breath. The manager grunted in her direction, a rare show of empathy crossing his tired features. "You look beat, Morgan," he said, arms folded. "Get some rest." "Working on it," Sarah replied, mustering a polite nod. She rubbed her temple, feeling a dull headache brewing. "I'll just wipe down these last two tables, then I'm done." He offered a shrug, lumbering off to the office without further comment. Exhausted, Sarah grabbed a rag and cleaning spray. The diner was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the buzz of fluorescent lights. She moved between the booths, picking up stray napkins and wiping sticky spots of ketchup. Her mind wandered to Lily, already safely at home with her neighbor babysitting, and to the man from the playground, the threatening text. The tension knotted again in her belly. A creak sounded behind her. Sarah jumped, whipping around to see who was there. To her surprise, it was not a co-worker but a delivery man in a worn dark blue uniform. He held a clipboard and a medium-sized cardboard box. "Sorry to startle you," he said with an apologetic wave. "Doors were still unlocked, so I came in. I have a package for Ms. Sarah Morgan." Sarah's pulse eased. "That's me." He handed her the clipboard to sign. Sarah scribbled her name, curious who'd be sending her a package at work. She took the box and placed it on the nearest table. It was unmarked except for her name. "Have a good night," the delivery man called, heading back out. The front door closed behind him, the overhead bell jingling faintly. Sarah hesitated, glancing toward Mr. Parker's office. Likely he wouldn't care, her shift was over, and personal packages were none of his business. But her heart hammered with apprehension as she carefully opened the box. Could it be another gift from Michael? She wasn't sure whether that thought comforted or terrified her. Tearing open the tape, she pulled back the flaps and peered inside. A gasp escaped her lips. Wrapped in clear plastic was a stuffed bunny, a brand new one with soft gray fur and a pink ribbon around its neck. At first it seemed sweet, but then she noticed a folded note placed next to the toy. She fished out the note and read, "Keep Lily smiling. Stay away from Davenport. No second warning. Her stomach dropped. The handwriting was neat but impersonal, like each letter deliberately formed. No signature, no name, just the stark threat. She lifted the bunny out, noticing how pristine it was, clearly never used. It smelled faintly of artificial roses, the kind of cheap fragrance used in discount stores. A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't from Michael. Whoever had delivered it knew about Lily, knew she had a stuffed toy at home. Her own ragged bunny was nearly falling apart from love and wear. Was this new bunny meant to be a twisted replacement? A cruel reminder that they could reach her child's world if they wanted? She shoved the note back into the box, her hands shaking so hard she nearly dropped it. Anger and fear warred in her chest. This had gone too far. She had to do something. She couldn't just keep ignoring these warnings and hoping they'd vanish. Lily's safety was at stake. Within minutes, Sarah burst into the manager's office, surprising Mr. Parker as he counted receipts. "Morgan," he barked, nearly dropping a stack of bills. "What's the matter with you?" She opened her mouth, about to confide in him, but froze. What would she say? That someone was threatening her because of Michael Davenport? Mr. Parker would likely fire her on the spot to avoid drama or negative attention on his diner. Instead, she forced a feeble smile. I just wanted to ask if I can clock out now. I've got a headache." He scowled but nodded. "Fine. Lock up on your way out. I'm leaving too." Sarah fled the office, scooping up the cardboard box. She flipped the sign on the door to closed behind her and hastily turned the key. The rain had let up outside, replaced by a sticky humidity. She walked briskly along the streetlights, each yellow glow casting ominous shadows. Every parked car felt like it might be hiding the mysterious man from before. Every footstep echo made her heart jolt. By the time she reached her tiny apartment building, her nerves were shredded. She hurried up the creaking stairs to the second floor. Mrs. Garcia, the elderly neighbor who babysat Lily, greeted her with a sympathetic smile. "She was an angel as always," Mrs. Garcia said, pulling on her cardigan. "You're home later than usual, dear. Everything all right?" Sarah forced a nod. "Thank you, Mrs. Garcia. I'm just tired." She managed a small laugh. "Working too hard." The neighbor patted her arm gently, then left. Once alone, Sarah locked the door, slid the deadbolt, then added the chain for good measure. Lily dozed on the sofa, hugging her own tattered bunny. The sight of her sleeping child made Sarah's chest constrict. She placed the new, unwanted bunny box on the kitchen counter, out of Lily's view. "I can't keep this a secret," she thought. "This is a direct threat." But who could she tell? She didn't trust the local police to do much without more evidence. They'd likely dismiss it as a random prank. And telling Michael? Her fear returned that he'd escalate the situation with bodyguards or legal action she couldn't handle. But Lily. She set aside her worry about pride and independence. Lily was the priority, always. With trembling resolve, Sarah grabbed her phone and scrolled to Michael's number. It rang 3 times before he picked up, his voice subdued. "Sarah?" he said, sounding concerned even before she spoke. "Everything okay?" She fought to keep her composure. "No," she admitted, hating how her voice shook. I need to tell you something. It's important." His tone sharpened. "Go ahead, I'm listening." She swallowed, glancing at Lily to ensure she was still asleep. "Someone's threatening me. And Lily. I don't know why, but I think it has to do with you. I got a text, and now a package, telling me to stay away from Davenport. They said no second warning." A tense silence filled the phone line. She could practically feel the electricity in the air. "When did this start?" Michael asked quietly, a dangerous edge slipping into his usually calm voice. "After we met for dinner," Sarah whispered. "They sent that text and now a stuffed bunny with a note. They mentioned Lily by name. Michael. I'm scared." She heard him exhale as though grappling with anger and concern. "I'm so sorry this is happening," he murmured, voice trembling with sincerity. "Look, Sarah, let me help you. Have you told the police?" She shook her head before remembering he couldn't see. "No, I'm not sure if that's the right move. Whoever this is, they're probably watching. They might hurt Lily if they see me talking to the police. Stop," Michael interrupted gently. "Take a breath. I won't let anyone hurt Lily. Or you. Look, I can come by right now." "No!" Sarah blurted, pulse spiking in panic. The last thing she wanted was to lead more trouble to her doorstep. "No, it's too late. Lily's asleep. And if they're watching, they'll see you. I can't risk it." He paused. "Tomorrow, then. Let's meet somewhere public, safe. A cafe near your place? I'll bring someone I trust. Someone who might help figure this out." Sarah hesitated, fear twisting her insides, but she had no better plan. Her options were running out. "Okay," she agreed softly. "But please be careful. Whoever's doing this seems serious." "I understand," he said. His voice was gentler now, but underneath was a steel determination she'd never heard before. "I'll text you the details. And Sarah, try to sleep if you can. We'll handle this." When she hung up, a shaky relief coursed through her, mixed with fresh dread. She set the phone on the coffee table and gazed at Lily, who was still fast asleep, blissfully unaware of the threat that hovered over their heads. Pulling a blanket over her daughter, Sarah sank down beside her, lightly stroking Lily's hair. If being around Michael meant they were targets, she was ready to cut ties for her child's safety. But now that the threats had begun, the question loomed. Would severing contact with him even matter? Or had the damage been done the moment Lily hugged a stranger in a diner, unwittingly binding them all to a fate Sarah could never have predicted? She closed her eyes. But rest was elusive. In the kitchen, the unopened bunny sat ominously in its box, a chilling reminder that while she might try to protect Lily from the world's cruelties, those cruelties had already stepped across her threshold. Morning broke through the gray sky, painting Sarah's apartment in a pale light. She woke up stiff and exhausted, having spent most of the night on the couch beside Lily. Her daughter stirred awake around the same time, rubbing her eyes and yawning softly. A fleeting moment of normalcy touched Sarah's heart. Lily smiled at her, the sweet, trusting expression of a child who believed the world was still safe. But Sarah couldn't forget the looming danger. She looked toward the kitchen, where the plain cardboard box sat in silent menace. She didn't want Lily to see it, nor the note inside. The last thing she needed was for Lily to feel scared or responsible for any of it. While Lily got dressed for school, Sarah carefully carried the package into her bedroom closet, shoving it deep behind old clothes and shoes. She wasn't sure if she'd need the box as proof for the authorities, or if it was safer to get rid of it. For now, she simply hid it from Lily's sight. Once Lily was ready, they shared a hurried breakfast. Toast and fruit, mostly because Sarah's appetite had vanished. She forced down a cup of coffee, her mind replaying her phone call with Michael. He wanted to meet in a public place with someone he trusted. A swirl of unease churned her stomach. Would that person be a bodyguard, a lawyer, or some corporate security figure? Sarah only knew that if Michael was determined to help, he might bring out bigger guns than she could handle. Regardless, she had no better plan. She had to trust someone, and Michael, so far, had shown nothing but genuine concern. Hoping for the best, she fought off her fears and finished getting herself and Lily out the door. The walk to school felt interminably long, each passing car or pedestrian a potential threat. Sarah kept Lily's hand clasped tightly, scanning the faces of strangers, breathing a sigh of relief each time she recognized a friendly neighbor. At the school gate, Lily looked up, sensing her mother's tension. "Mommy, are you okay?" she asked in a quiet voice. Sarah forced a small smile, smoothing Lily's hair. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just grown-up worries. You go on, have a good day, okay? I'll see you after." Lily nodded reluctantly, then joined her friends. Sarah waited until her daughter disappeared into the building before turning away. She needed to be at the cafe by 10. Michael's text had specified a small place near the central library, about a 15-minute bus ride from here. Her shift at the diner didn't start until noon, so she had time to make the meeting. Maybe that was a blessing. She'd prefer not to wait any longer than necessary. Within half an hour, Sarah arrived at the cafe. It was a humble spot, with faded green umbrellas on a cramped outdoor patio. A sign reading "Brew and Bloom" hung crookedly above the entrance. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee mingled with the sweet scent of pastries. A handful of customers sat scattered among tables, reading newspapers or tapping on laptops. Michael was already there, seated at a corner table with another man. Her heart rate spiked as she recognized Michael's pressed suit, charcoal gray this time, paired with a crisp white shirt. He stood the moment he spotted her, crossing to greet her with genuine relief in his eyes. "Sarah," he said softly, "thank you for coming." She offered a tense nod, her attention flicking to the stranger beside him, a tall, lean man in a dark blazer, hair neatly cropped. He radiated an air of control, the kind that reminded Sarah of an off-duty detective. His eyes were sharp, taking in Sarah with a measured glance. "Sarah, this is Noah James," Michael introduced. "He's part of my personal security team. I trust him implicitly." Security team? That phrase alone made her stiffen. "Nice to meet you," she murmured, shaking the man's hand. His grip was firm but not aggressive. "Pleasure," Noah said calmly. "Michael told me a bit about the situation. I'm here to help if I can." Though still uneasy, Sarah allowed Michael to steer her to a seat at their table. She noticed a fresh mug of tea already waiting for her, accompanied by a small pitcher of honey. Michael must have remembered how she liked her tea sweet. It was a thoughtful gesture, one that made her chest tighten with unexpected emotion. Once they were settled, Noah leaned forward, placing a small notepad on the table. "Let's get straight to the details if that's all right." Michael mentioned threatening messages. Sarah nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes. About a week ago, I received a text telling me to stay away from Michael. Then a couple days later, a package arrived at my workplace. Someone delivered it in the evening. Inside was a new stuffed bunny and a note that said, 'Keep Lily smiling. Stay away from Davenport. No second warning.'" Michael's jaw clenched, anger flashing in his eyes. Noah, by contrast, maintained composure, though a flicker of concern creased his brow. "Did you bring the note?" Noah asked. Sarah shook her head. "I hid it at home. I didn't want my daughter to see it, but I still have it." "That's good," Noah replied. "We can examine it for any clues. Fingerprints, leftover adhesive from tape, anything that might identify the source." She felt a ripple of relief. "I didn't want to go to the police. I was scared it would escalate things. But if you think we should—" Noah raised a palm gently. "Let's not rush. We might contact them, but first we need to determine if this threat is coming from someone with a known motive or if it's random. You mentioned it started after you and Michael began meeting?" Sarah nodded. "Yes. The first time I saw him, Lily hugged him at the diner, calling him Daddy." Her cheeks colored at the memory, but she pressed on. "Then we met once more for dinner. Soon after, the threats began." Michael placed his hand gently on Sarah's forearm, a comforting gesture. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," he repeated, voice heavy. "This might be related to my business. I've made enemies before, especially with major acquisitions or competitive deals. Some people might think, wrongly, that you or Lily are connected to me in a personal way they can exploit." Her pulse jumped at the word exploit. "We're not," she said, perhaps too quickly. "I mean, you're just someone who's been kind." Michael's gaze softened. "I know, but they might see a vulnerability." Noah nodded. "I suspect that's exactly it. An unknown party sees Sarah as leverage. If they think you two are close, they might threaten her to manipulate you, Michael." Sarah exhaled shakily, realizing how dangerously she'd been entangled in a world of corporate and personal power struggles. "So what do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I can't have Lily's safety compromised because we crossed paths." Michael's features hardened with determination. "No one will hurt Lily," he said firmly. "I'll keep you both safe. Noah and his team can set up surveillance, check if you're being followed, and guard Lily's school if necessary." Guard Lily's school. The thought made her chest tighten with dread. She could picture men in suits lurking near the playground. Would that scare Lily and her classmates? Would it bring more attention from the threat? Sensing her apprehension, Noah spoke gently. "We'll be discreet. Children shouldn't feel like they're in a war zone. But we need to know if someone's observing you. If they are, we might identify them. And if we do, we can figure out who's behind this." Sarah slumped back in her chair, the teacup trembling in her hands. She took a sip, hoping it would soothe the knot in her throat. "All right," she whispered, "if you think that's best." Outside, a drizzle began, the raindrops pattering against the cafe windows. Morning light had shifted to a dull gray, matching her mood. Noah took a calm but authoritative tone. "Sarah, do you remember anything unusual besides the package and text? Any strange cars parked outside, anyone approaching you more than once?" She paused, recalling the moment at the playground. There was a man, wearing a baseball cap, watching me and Lily. It was the day I got that first text. He stood near the fence and disappeared when I noticed him. Noah jotted notes. Description? Mid-height, average build, wearing jeans, nothing too distinct. He was just there, looking at us. Then he left. Michael exhaled slowly, tapping a finger on the table. "Do you have any guess who's behind this, Noah?" Noah shrugged lightly. "Could be business competitors, a disgruntled investor, someone holding a grudge. Often they'll try intimidation before direct confrontation. It could also be personal, someone from your past, or even from Sarah's life, though that seems less likely." Sarah's thoughts skittered to Lily's father, but quickly dismissed it. He'd shown no signs of reappearing, and she doubted he had the resources for something this orchestrated. Noah continued, "Our immediate steps. We'll do a background check on recent threats Michael's received in the corporate sphere. Meanwhile, we'll discreetly watch Sarah's building, her route to work, and Lily's school. If we catch any suspicious activity, we can intervene or call the police." A wave of relief mingled with anxiety. Sarah felt guilty accepting so much help, but Lily's well-being overshadowed pride. "I don't want to cause a big scene at the school," she repeated. "Or let Lily know anything's wrong. She's just a kid. She doesn't need this kind of fear." Michael's eyes met hers, filled with sympathy. "We'll protect her without scaring her. We can stage it so that Noah's team just looks like regular bystanders." Noah glanced at Sarah's ring-free hand. Then the mention of Lily's father seemed to pass through his thoughts. "Just to be thorough, Sarah, your ex, there's nothing there that might connect him to a threat." She shook her head vehemently. "He's gone. He left when Lily was a baby. No contact, no money, no reason to come after us now." "All right." Noah scribbled a final note. "Then we focus on Michael's side of things. Sarah, if you can bring me that note and the package at some point, I'd like to see it. The security team will be on standby. I'll text you a number you can call anytime, day or night, if you feel unsafe." Sarah nodded, her throat tight with gratitude and lingering dread. She lifted the mug for another sip, but her hands still shook. Michael reached out to steady her cup, a protective gesture that made her heart flutter. Despite the terror overshadowing her, that momentary kindness felt like a small beacon of hope. "Thank you," she whispered, voice fragile. "I'm sorry you're caught up in this too. I never wanted to be part of some battle." Michael squeezed her hand gently. "Don't apologize. It's my fault for not being more cautious, but it doesn't matter now. We'll face this together." They exchanged a few more logistical details, where Sarah worked, Lily's drop-off and pickup times, her weekly schedule. Noah typed everything into his phone with military precision. Outside, the drizzle intensified, rattling the window as if nature itself sensed the tension in the room. When they finally rose to leave, Michael walked Sarah to the exit. "I can give you a ride to work," he offered, noticing the rain. "I'd prefer you not wait at the bus stop alone." She hesitated but relented. The fear of the unknown overcame any reluctance about accepting more help. "Okay, thank you." Noah stepped out first, scanning the area before signaling that it was clear. Sarah followed, umbrella in hand, while Michael pulled his car around. She felt a strange mix of safety and vulnerability, enfolded in the protective net of Michael's resources, yet fully aware that a single misstep could escalate the danger. As the car glided through the rain-soaked streets toward the diner, Sarah stole a glance at Michael. His profile looked grim, jaw tight. She realized that underneath his polished exterior was a man just as worried as she was, perhaps even blaming himself. He parked a block away, near the back entrance. "Call me after your shift," he said quietly. "Anytime you sense something off, let me know." Sarah nodded, stepping out carefully to avoid puddles. Her eyes scanned the surroundings. No suspicious figure, no phantom watchers. Still, a chill pricked the back of her neck. "I will," she promised. He gave a final reassuring nod, and she sprinted through the rain to the back door. Once inside the diner's warm interior, she couldn't help exhaling in relief, though her nerves still sizzled with the knowledge that this battle had only begun. She pulled off her damp jacket, forcing a polite smile for the cook who greeted her with a wave. In her mind, she replayed Noah's plan. Security, discreet surveillance, collecting evidence from the note. It all felt surreal, like a spy movie come to life. She yearned for the simpler days when her only challenge was affording rent and Lily's school supplies. Yet here she was, like it or not, drawn into Michael Davenport's orbit, and, in turn, into the path of whoever wanted them apart. Sarah tied on her apron and inhaled the familiar scent of frying bacon and coffee, grounding herself in routine. She thought of Lily in class, hopefully shielded from all of this. The next steps lay ahead, cooperating with Michael, sharing the note, awaiting updates from Noah's discreet watch. Perhaps by the time Lily came home today, they would already have a lead on the mysterious threat. Or maybe not. Wiping a table, Sarah steeled herself. However it unfolded, she had to stand firm for Lily's sake. She refused to let fear dictate their lives. No matter who was behind these threats, Sarah silently promised Lily and herself that she would never back down, not until they were safe. Sarah's shift at the Amber Diner passed with an unnerving sense of anticipation. She took orders, refilled coffee cups, and answered customers' friendly questions about the daily specials, all while her mind spun around the possibility that someone might be watching from outside. Each time the door chimed, she felt a jolt of nerves, but it was always just a regular local, a truck driver needing lunch, or a pair of teenagers on break from school. No ominous figures in caps, no suspicious observers glancing her way. She tried to remain calm, reminding herself that Noah's team was supposedly conducting discreet surveillance. He had told her not to change her normal routine, though the anxiety nagging at her made that nearly impossible. She couldn't stop glancing out the large front windows every few minutes. Twice, she caught Mr. Parker giving her a strange look, no doubt noticing how jumpy she seemed, but he didn't say anything. Finally, around 5 in the evening, the usual dinner crowd trickled in. Sarah was in the middle of delivering a burger and fries to a teenage boy when she glanced at the window and saw a familiar silhouette across the street. The figure was tall, wearing a dark jacket, facing the diner but standing beneath a streetlight. At first, panic rose in her throat. Was that the same man from the playground? Her heart kicked hard. She set down the tray, her eyes narrowing, trying to see through the reflection. Then the shape lifted a phone. and Sarah noticed with relief that it was Noah. Even from this distance, his posture looked purposeful. Their gazes locked briefly. He gave a slight nod before strolling out of sight. A quiet wave of gratitude swept through her. He was there, watching her back. The thought offered a sliver of reassurance. She returned to the kitchen to grab the next order, feeling slightly less alone. By the time she finished and clocked out, the early sunset had draped the streets in a dusky glow. Sarah shrugged into her jacket and slung her small purse over her shoulder. Outside, she found Noah leaning near a lamppost, keeping a casual distance so it wouldn't look conspicuous. He straightened when she emerged. "Evening," he greeted, voice low. "Michael asked me to give you a ride home, if that's all right. We just want to ensure you aren't followed." Sarah hesitated. She was about to say she could walk or take the bus, but the memory of that threatening note and the stuffed bunny shoved in her closet quashed her pride. "Thank you," she said softly, summoning a slight smile. They walked side by side to the corner, where a plain black sedan was parked. Not a flashy luxury car, clearly a deliberate choice for blending in. Noah opened the passenger door for her, then slid into the driver's seat. "How did the shift go?" he asked, pulling away from the curb. "Uneventful," she replied, glancing at the rearview mirror. "Any sign of that man from the playground?" Noah shook his head. "No. One of my associates and I monitored the area. We saw nobody suspicious. But we'll keep looking." Sarah nodded. Relief and worry collided inside her. Did that mean the threat had backed off, or was it just waiting for a better opportunity? As they drove, Noah's phone buzzed. He answered via speaker, and Michael's voice filled the car. "Noah?" "Got her," Noah reported. "We're en route to her place." "Great," Michael said. "Sarah, I'm checking in. How are you holding up?" His concern tugged at her heart, reminding her of how gentler moments could exist even in the midst of this chaos. "I'm managing," she answered, feeling oddly comforted by his voice. "Thanks for sending Noah." "Of course, I'll let you both go. Just wanted to confirm everything's on track. Talk soon." Michael hung up, leaving the car in silence aside from the hum of the engine. Sarah gazed out at the passing storefronts. She wanted to ask more questions about these associates and what exactly they did. Were they former law enforcement? Military? But she decided she wasn't sure she really wanted to know. Within minutes, the sedan pulled up to her apartment building. The structure's bricks looked tired in the dim streetlights, the front stoop cracked and shadowed. Noah parked, scanning the surroundings with practiced eyes. "Looks clear," he murmured. "I'll walk you in if that's okay." She bit her lip. "It's just upstairs, but yes, all right. I appreciate it." Noah accompanied her up the front steps, through the narrow hallway, and around the second-floor corridor. No neighbors lingered in sight. Once they reached her door, Sarah fumbled with her key, her nerves making her clumsy. Finally, she unlocked it and ushered him in briefly. The apartment smelled of the leftover spaghetti from Lily's dinner. The living room was empty. Mrs. Garcia had likely put Lily to sleep. Sarah motioned for Noah to wait, then hurried to the neighbor's door. She thanked Mrs. Garcia, who explained Lily was in bed, snuggled up with her old stuffed bunny. After a round of good nights, Mrs. Garcia left with a kindly smile, and Sarah returned to her own place, closing the door behind her. She found Noah in the living room standing near the window. He didn't pry or wander around, he just waited. "All good?" he asked softly. Sarah nodded. "Thanks again. I'm sorry. You're going out of your way." Noah's expression was kind but businesslike. "That's my job, and it's important to Michael that you and Lily are safe." She took a shaky breath. "Right." They stood in a brief, companionable silence, the city lights flickering through the curtains. "Would you like me to check the place quickly, just to be sure no one's entered?" he asked. At first she wanted to refuse. How humiliating to think her home might be compromised. But caution won out. "Yes, please." Noah made a swift circuit. scanning each room, checking the windows, verifying the locks. In the bedroom, Sarah lingered behind him, retrieving the ominous package from her closet. He turned at her soft gasp when she held it. "This is it?" he asked, voice low. She nodded, passing him the cardboard box and the folded note still tucked inside. Noah removed the note, read it once, and his jaw hardened. "Yeah, this is definitely a threat," he said grimly. "No question. May I take it with me for analysis?" Sarah hesitated, then agreed. "Of course. Just, please, keep it safe. I guess it's evidence, right?" He gave a half smile. "You've got nothing to worry about, Sarah. We'll handle it carefully." He slid the note and box into a plain bag he'd brought. "We'll check for prints or unique materials. We might not get anything, but it's worth a try." She sighed, gaze flicking to her bedroom door where Lily slept. "Thank you. I'm really grateful." Noah placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure this out. Try to get some rest, okay?" She nodded, unsure how restful her night would be. Noah stepped into the hallway, paused, then faced her again. "If you see anything suspicious, call me immediately," he reminded. "Even if it's nothing, it's better to be safe." "Yes. Got it." With that, he left, footsteps echoing down the corridor. Sarah quickly locked up. Alone again, she stood still, hugging herself as the weight of the day sank in. Outside, a siren wailed somewhere in the distance, a reminder that life went on, dangers and all. She checked on Lily, who was curled under the covers in the warm lamplight, softly breathing. A flutter of relief washed over Sarah at the sight. For Lily's sake, she'd endure any fear. Quietly, she changed into pajamas, brushed her teeth, and tried to settle into bed with her daughter, gently shifting Lily's limbs to make room. But sleep didn't come easily. Her mind churned with images of the threat note, the toy bunny, and men in baseball caps lurking in playgrounds. She pictured Michael with his gentle concern, and the storm it had seemingly unleashed on her once quiet life. If only Lily hadn't run up to him in the diner. But no, she couldn't blame Lily. The child had followed an instinct. Perhaps fate had intended for them to meet. Eventually, the adrenaline ebbed, and she drifted into restless dreams. The next day dawned brighter, with a thin slice of sunshine cutting through the blinds. Lily stirred, blinking at her mother's face. "Mommy, are you awake?" Sarah forced a light smile. "Morning, sweet pea. Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded, then wrinkled her nose. "You look tired." "Just grown-up stuff," Sarah reassured her, ruffling Lily's hair. "I'm okay. Let's get you ready for school, all right?" She helped Lily dress and made scrambled eggs, trying to resurrect a normal routine. She half expected to hear from Michael, but the phone remained silent except for a quick text from Noah. "All clear overnight. We'll update you if anything changes." Sarah exhaled a shaky breath and typed back a thank you. She walked Lily to school, scanning the streets all the while. She couldn't see any watchers, but perhaps Noah's team was around. She spotted a nondescript sedan parked near the corner. That might be them, or it could just be another parent's car. She felt a strange mix of gratitude and claustrophobia at the notion that her life was suddenly under watchful eyes. After Lily disappeared into the school building, Sarah realized she had a rare day off. Mr. Parker had cut her hours for a brief lull in business, leaving her unscheduled until the weekend. She'd normally use this chance to run errands or do laundry, but with the fear still fresh, she wasn't sure if she dared wander far from home. Her phone buzzed, Michael's name. She pressed the device to her ear. "Hey," she said, heart fluttering. "Hey," he replied, voice gentle. "I just wanted to check in. Noah said everything was quiet last night." She gripped the phone tighter. "Yes, it was. Thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing." A pause. "No need to thank me. I do have some news, though. Noah's got a possible lead on a competitor who's been known to play dirty. We're trying to confirm if they'd go as far as personal threats." If it's them, we can lean on certain channels to get them to back off. Sarah's stomach twisted. That's good, right? Potentially, but it's not conclusive. We'll keep digging. A pensive note entered his tone. Sarah, do you have time to meet today? Somewhere public, maybe the library near Lily's school. I'd like to go over a few things with you, see how you're holding up. She considered. Fear urged her to stay home, but another voice told her that being near Michael might keep her safer, and she did want to know more about these leads. Okay, she agreed. What time? Let's say 11? All right, I'll be there. Ending the call, she stared at the quiet street. The library was a short walk away. Maybe she could gather some courage and do normal errands afterward. She was tired of hiding. If any watchers lurked, let them see she wouldn't cower. Pulling her jacket tight, Sarah began walking. The day was mild, sunlight dancing across the pavement. A fleeting spark of hope glimmered in her heart. If Noah's lead was correct, maybe this nightmare would end soon. Then she and Lily could return to their simpler life, free of shadows. As she headed toward the library, she refused to let fear dominate. Whatever came next, at least she wasn't facing it alone. The public library near Lily's school was housed in a tall brick building with arched windows and ivy creeping up the walls. One of the few historic sites in a town otherwise full of chain stores and bland office blocks. Sarah stepped inside, grateful for the hush that enveloped her. The faint smell of old books and polished wood offered a surprising sense of comfort. She spotted Michael seated at a table near the far corner, where sunlight pooled through a stained glass window. Dressed in a casual navy sweater instead of his usual suit, he almost blended in. Yet there was an unmistakable elegance in how he held himself. At his side lay a slim folder. Sarah wove through the shelves, her heart quickening. She recalled how just weeks ago Michael had been a mere stranger at table 5. Now she was trusting him and his security team more than she would have ever imagined. She arrived at his table, offering a small smile in greeting. "Hey," she whispered, mindful of the hushed atmosphere. "Been waiting long?" "Just a few minutes," he replied softly, standing to pull out a chair for her. "How are you holding up?" She settled in, smoothing her jacket. "I'm still on edge, but Lily's fine. At school, none the wiser. That's all that matters." He nodded, gaze flicking over her face. "I wish this didn't have to be so stressful for you." Then, with a quiet sigh, he tapped the folder. "Noah asked me to bring you some information. We've been investigating a potential suspect, one of my rival companies, Cassian Holdings. They've been known to intimidate or strong-arm smaller competitors. But threatening a civilian, especially a child, that's low, even for them." Sarah grimaced, her stomach twisting. "So you think it's them?" He opened the folder to show a series of notes and printouts. "Noah uncovered that Cassian's CEO is in a bidding war with my firm over a major contract. We suspect they might view you as a convenient pressure point, especially after that photo got around." "Photo?" she repeated sharply. "What photo?" Michael's face darkened. "Apparently someone at the diner snapped a picture when Lily hugged me that first day. It circulated online briefly, people speculating if I had a secret daughter. I didn't even know about it until a colleague flagged it. It never went viral, but it might have reached Cassian's circles." Sarah fought a surge of outrage. "So they see me and Lily as some kind of weapon?" "That's the theory," Michael said grimly, closing the folder. "It's disgusting, but corporate sabotage can get nasty, and if Cassian or one of their fixers decided to terrorize you, it wouldn't be the first time they used underhanded tactics." She lowered her voice further, leaning in. "Is there a way to stop them, without stirring up more trouble?" Michael exhaled. "Noah's team is gathering more intel. If we can prove Cassian's involvement, I can file restraining orders or even criminal charges. That might make them back off. Or, if needed, we can apply our own pressure." The business world's not always straightforward, but I have resources." Sarah swallowed. She wanted no part of corporate wars, but it seemed she was already caught in one. "So what now?" she asked, trying not to sound desperate. Michael reached across the table, giving her hand a brief, reassuring squeeze. The warmth of his touch slowed the frantic beating of her heart. "For now," he said gently, "we keep you and Lily safe, while we collect evidence. Noah has men posted discreetly near your apartment and Lily's school. I'd like to have them follow you to the diner as well, just to be sure." She frowned. "I don't want to alarm my boss or my co-workers. If they see me with security tailing me—" He nodded in understanding. "We'll keep it low-key. Maybe an unmarked car parked across the street. We'll coordinate with Noah so you won't even notice them most of the time." Sarah sighed, feeling torn between relief and discomfort. "This is so surreal," she murmured, voice trembling. "I never asked for any of this." "I know," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, I just—" He paused, then pressed on. "I can't turn my back on you and Lily, especially not after she—" He trailed off, but Sarah knew. After Lily called him Daddy, even if by mistake, something had shifted for both of them, a bond neither had intended. They let a gentle silence linger. Around them, a few library patrons flipped through books, oblivious to the tension at the corner table. Finally, Sarah cleared her throat. "Listen, if it gets too complicated, I can back away. Lily and I can just steer clear of you. Maybe that's what these people want. Maybe if we're not in your life, they'll stop." Michael's eyes flared with a protective intensity. "Absolutely not," he whispered fiercely. "They can't be allowed to intimidate us. If I abandon you to protect my own interests, what does that say about me? And anyway, there's no guarantee they'd leave you alone once you're out of sight. You've already become a point of leverage." She sank back, realizing he was right. Even if she vanished, the enemy might still threaten her until they got what they wanted from Michael. Her chest felt tight. She'd gone from a single mother scraping by to a pawn in a high-stakes game, and the transition seemed to happen in the blink of an eye. "Okay," she murmured, forcing steadiness into her voice. "Then tell me what I can do." His expression softened. "Just cooperate with Noah. Keep living your daily routine, but stay alert. Let him or me know if anything suspicious happens. I'll handle the corporate side." Sarah gave a shaky nod. She glanced at the library clock. "I have a few errands. Are you busy?" Michael managed a faint smile. "My schedule is flexible. Want some company? Maybe we can keep an eye out for any watchers." She hesitated, remembering how it felt to walk the streets alone, constantly looking over her shoulder. Having Michael by her side might ease her nerves. "Sure," she said, half smiling. "It's mostly groceries and picking up Lily's favorite snacks." He stood, collecting the folder. "Groceries it is." 15 minutes later, they strolled into a small local market, its shelves cramped with fresh produce, canned goods, and basic household items. Michael's presence drew a few curious glances. He looked out of place, with his refined manner and impeccable grooming. Sarah tried to ignore the stares, focusing on her short list. Bread, eggs, milk, some fruit. A treat for Lily if she found one on sale. Michael lingered near her, occasionally asking polite questions about what Lily liked to eat. She found herself chatting with him about Lily's picky phases, how she used to refuse vegetables unless they were mixed in mac and cheese. The conversation felt so normal she nearly forgot the cloud hanging over them. Nearly. At the cash register, Michael attempted to pay, but Sarah placed a firm hand on his wrist. "No," she said, managing a polite yet firm tone. "I appreciate the help you've given, but groceries, I can handle that. Please." His jaw tensed, then he relented, sliding his card back into his wallet. He nodded once, silently respecting her need for independence. The cashier, a middle-aged woman, glanced between them curiously, but said nothing. When they stepped back onto the sidewalk, Sarah felt oddly proud. In a world that had spun out of her control, paying for her own groceries offered a small sense of ownership. Michael seemed to sense it too and offered a small smile of approval. They walked alongside the busy street, heading toward Sarah's apartment. She carried the grocery bag, Michael by her side, scanning passers-by. "I'm not sure how to phrase this," he began quietly. "But have you thought about Lily's father? Whether he might—" "No." She cut him off gently, shaking her head. "He's not coming back. Not in a threatening way anyway. He walked out years ago. If anything, he'd probably keep running in the other direction." Michael exhaled. Relief mingled with concern. "I'm sorry. I just had to rule it out." They reached Sarah's building, a humble structure with chipped paint and a broken front step. Up close, it looked more run down than Michael had probably ever seen. Still, he didn't comment or judge. Instead, his gaze swept the street, checking for anything unusual. "Seems quiet," he said, offering the grocery bag a final glance. "Want me to come up? Or would you prefer I stay outside?" Sarah weighed the question. Part of her wanted him upstairs, a comforting presence in her plain apartment. Another part bristled at the idea of him seeing Lily's cramped bedroom and the second-hand furniture. But with the threats looming, she decided security was more important than pride. "Sure," she murmured. "Just for a minute." Inside, she unlocked her door, stepping into the modest living room. The stale air smelled faintly of the morning's coffee. Lily's drawings were taped on the walls, bright suns, lopsided flowers, a princess with swirling purple hair. Each piece of paper was a testament to a child's optimism. Michael scanned the room, taking in the worn sofa, the thrift store dining table, the small TV on a rickety stand. He said nothing condescending. Instead, his face softened. "It's cozy," he said quietly, and she knew he meant it sincerely. She set the groceries on the kitchen counter. "Thank you," she replied, pushing aside her embarrassment. "It's not much, but it's home." They stood in an awkward hush for a moment. Suddenly, Michael's phone buzzed. He read a text, brow furrowing. "Noah," he explained. "He's just verifying we made it inside safely. I'll tell him we're good." She nodded. "I guess it's reassuring having him watch out there, though it still feels strange." He offered a rueful half-smile, pocketing the phone. "I know, but better safe than sorry." Then, as if recalling another point, he shifted. "Actually, Sarah, I wanted to ask something. About Lily. She's at school right now, but I was wondering if maybe we could do something nice for her soon, like take her to that indoor play center or maybe a weekend fair. She's been under a lot of pressure, even if she doesn't fully realize it." A surge of warmth filled Sarah's chest. For a moment, she pictured Lily laughing on a merry-go-round or dashing around a brightly lit play area, forgetting all their troubles. She wanted that for her daughter so badly, yet fear pricked at her. "Would that be safe?" Michael nodded. "We could do it discreetly. Noah's team can keep watch, but from a distance, Lily won't even know." Sarah mulled it over. "She'd love that. But let's wait a bit, see if things calm down." "Of course," he said gently. "No rush, just an idea." Outside, the rumble of a passing truck rattled the window. The tension in her shoulders returned. "I guess you should go," she said, hating how abrupt it sounded. "I need to pick Lily up from school in a couple hours." Michael studied her eyes. "Yes, I have a conference call soon." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Take care, Sarah. Please call me if anything happens, good or bad. All right?" She nodded, heart thumping at their closeness. "I will." Without warning, a wave of gratitude and something else, something deeper, warmed her chest. Before she could second-guess herself, she leaned in and pressed a light, grateful kiss to his cheek. He blinked, a hint of surprise softening his features, then gave a small, shy smile in return. "Thank you," she whispered, stepping back, "for everything." He cleared his throat, clearly touched. "I'm always here," he murmured. "Whatever you need." Then he turned and left, the door clicking shut behind him. Sarah stood there, hand drifting to her lips as if to still the flutter in her belly. The quiet apartment felt different now, charged with the lingering warmth of his presence. She could scarcely remember the last time she'd voluntarily reached out to someone, especially a man, for support. But that fleeting moment of closeness couldn't mask reality. She thought of the threats, the stuffed bunny, and Cassian Holdings looming in the background. Trouble still circled them. They'd have to confront it soon, one way or another. For now, she began putting groceries away, trying to latch onto any semblance of normal. Lily would be home soon, brightening the space with chatter about her day. Sarah clung to the hope that one day all of this would be a distant memory, that Lily could run freely without shadows lurking nearby. And maybe, just maybe, Michael Davenport would still be around to share in that simpler future, if fate allowed it. The neighborhood was unusually quiet that evening. Sarah noticed it the moment she stepped outside to fetch Lily from school. Fewer cars rolled down the street, and the usual hum of voices and barking dogs seemed muted, as if the city held its breath. She tried to shake off the strange feeling, reminding herself that Noah's discreet watch still stood nearby. Even if she couldn't see them, she knew they'd be keeping track of her safety. School dismissal went smoothly. Lily came out beaming with a bright painting of stars and a moon, announcing, "Mommy, look! It's the night sky, but purple." Sarah's heart warmed as she praised her daughter's creativity. Together, they walked home, Lily chattering about a classmate's birthday party. Sarah smiled and responded where she could, yet her mind stayed half-focused on their surroundings, scanning for anything unusual. No one appeared to follow them. No suspicious cars idled at corners. Sarah began to hope that maybe Cassian Holdings, or whoever was behind the threats, had backed down. She pictured a normal evening, cooking dinner, helping Lily with a little homework, maybe reading a bedtime story. Just the everyday life they deserved. They reached their apartment building and climbed the steps, greeting Mrs. Garcia in passing. Once inside, Lily kicked off her shoes and rushed to her bedroom to hang up her new painting. Sarah flicked on the overhead light in the living room and closed the door behind them. She froze. Instantly, she could tell something was off. The faint smell of cigarettes hung in the air, something neither she nor Lily used. A prickle of warning ran up her arms. She glanced around, stomach twisting. Her apartment looked the same, the worn couch, Lily's drawings on the wall, but the more she looked, the more certain she became. The cushions on the couch were slightly askew. The small dish of spare change she kept on the kitchen counter was moved an inch to the left. The curtains were parted differently than she'd left them. Someone had been inside. Fear spiked through her. Her first instinct was to rush Lily out, but the door behind them clicked shut. Sarah locked it and flipped the deadbolt on reflex, heart pounding. She didn't want to alarm Lily. "Hey, sweetheart," she called, trying to keep her voice steady. "Put your backpack down and come here a second, okay?" Lily appeared in the hallway, holding a stuffed bear by one ear. "What's wrong, Mommy?" Sarah mustered a calm smile. "Everything's fine. I just need to check something." Tense but collected, Sarah scanned the rooms. The bedroom, Lily's small room, and even the bathroom. She touched nothing, knowing Noah would want any evidence to remain undisturbed. Some dresser drawers were cracked open but not completely rifled through. It felt more like a warning than a full-blown burglary, like someone had crept in, looking just enough to rattle her. "Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled. "Why are you worried?" Sarah's chest tightened. She crouched to her daughter's level. "Nothing bad's going to happen, Lily," she said gently, stroking her hair. "I just need to make a phone call, okay? Let's go wait in the hallway near Mrs. Garcia's place." Lily didn't argue. She sensed her mother's seriousness. Sarah scooped up her purse and ushered Lily out into the corridor, locking the door behind them. Only once they stood outside did Sarah pull her phone free and call Noah. It rang twice before he answered, voice crisp. Sarah?" Her breath quickened. "Someone was in my apartment," she whispered, keeping her voice low so Lily wouldn't panic. "I'm sure of it. Nothing's obviously stolen, but things were moved. And I smell cigarettes." "Stay where you are," Noah responded immediately. "I'm on my way with a team. Don't go inside again." She exhaled shakily. "Right, we're in the hall. Lily's with me." "Good," Noah said. "We'll be there in 10 minutes, maybe less." When the call ended, Sarah looked at Lily, who gazed up with wide, nervous eyes. "Mommy, did a bad person come in our house?" Sarah's throat tightened. She wished she could spare Lily the fear entirely, but lying outright felt wrong. "Maybe," she admitted gently. "But we're safe now. We'll just wait for our friends." Lily clutched her mother's hand. They stood in the dim corridor. Mrs. Garcia peeked out from her door, eyes concerned. "Sarah, dear, everything all right?" Sarah explained as calmly as she could that someone might have broken in and that she was waiting for some friends from work who could help. Mrs. Garcia offered to let them wait inside her apartment, but Sarah declined. She was grateful for the kind neighbor, but she didn't want to risk leading the intruders to another innocent person if they were still lurking. Minutes later, the echo of hurried footsteps filled the stairwell. Noah arrived with 2 men in plain clothes. Both looked fit and alert, scanning the hallway with practiced efficiency. Noah greeted Sarah with a grave nod. "Are you okay? Lily okay?" "Yes," Sarah managed. "We didn't see anyone. They must have left before we got home." Noah motioned to one of his men, who swiftly moved to the door, a slim toolkit in hand. "We'll do a sweep inside," Noah explained. "You two stay out here for now." Sarah nodded, squeezing Lily's hand. She watched as the men entered her apartment, guns drawn, voices low. A tense hush followed. Lily huddled close, clearly frightened, but Sarah murmured assurances that everything would be fine. 5 minutes felt like an hour. Finally, Noah emerged. "Clear," he said softly, waving Sarah over. "We didn't find anyone inside, but it's definitely been tampered with. The lock wasn't forced, could be a pick or a master key. There are faint footprints by the window and a cigarette butt near your trash can." Sarah swallowed. "Nothing stolen, right?" Noah shook his head. "Doesn't look like it. This was more like a message. We'll dust for prints, but if these guys are pros, they'll have worn gloves." She hugged Lily tighter. Her daughter pressed her face into Sarah's side, small arms wrapped around her waist. "What do we do now?" Sarah breathed, tears threatening. Noah's jaw clenched. "We'll file a police report, but we can't guarantee they'll devote major resources without a direct suspect. Meanwhile, my men can install a security camera in your apartment and change the locks. We can also have someone here overnight." Mrs. Garcia approached timidly from her door, overhearing. She seemed shaken but determined. "Sarah, maybe you should stay with me tonight, or go to a hotel. That's what people do on TV when there's danger, right?" Sarah gave the older woman a grateful glance. "Thank you, but I think I need to do what Noah suggests. We'll update the security and—" She faltered, looking toward her daughter. "I can't uproot Lily from her own home again and again, but maybe a hotel is safer, at least until we get new locks?" Noah nodded. "It's an option, yes. We can discreetly escort you to a safe location." Sarah's mind spun. This was all too much, yet she couldn't risk Lily's safety. A wave of exhaustion crashed over her. Before she could decide, her phone buzzed again. Michael's name. She felt a pang of relief. Of course Noah would have informed him. She answered quickly. "Michael?" "Sarah," he said, voice taut. "Noah told me what happened. Are you and Lily all right?" She swallowed her fear, summoning calm. "Yes, just scared. Noah wants to secure the apartment. Maybe put us in a hotel." "Do it," Michael urged. "I'll cover any expense. I don't want you staying somewhere that's been compromised. I'm on my way too." He ended the call before she could protest. Sarah stared at Lily, who clung to her like a lifeline. "Sweetheart," she whispered, kneeling to Lily's height. "We might stay in a special place tonight, okay? Like a little vacation. Isn't that fun?" Lily tried to smile, but tears pricked her eyes. "But all my stuff is here." Sarah's heart squeezed. "We'll grab what you need. It'll just be for a little bit." Mrs. Garcia nodded encouragingly. "And I'll look after your place, dear. Water any plants if needed," she offered, though Sarah had none. The gesture still warmed her. Noah dispatched one of his men to buy new locks while he and the other began setting up a discreet camera near the kitchen window. Sarah, in turn, gathered clothes and Lily's most cherished items. Lily insisted on taking her ragged stuffed bunny, the original one, clutching it tight. Sarah was grateful. The replacement bunny was still with Noah's team for evidence. By the time Sarah stuffed enough essentials into a small suitcase, footsteps signaled someone else in the corridor. Michael. He walked in, a concerned furrow between his brows. He paused to greet Lily, mustering a gentle smile, before turning to Sarah. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "Are you sure you're both okay?" She nodded, fighting back tears. "Yeah, just shaken." Michael strode through the apartment, eyeing the half-installed camera, the open drawers. Anger flickered in his expression. "This is crossing every line," he muttered. "I'll make sure Cassian or whoever's behind this regrets it." Noah and his men finished their tasks. The security cam was positioned to capture the living room and main door. The new locks would be installed tonight, though Sarah wouldn't be sleeping here regardless. She accepted the changes with gratitude, wishing none of this was necessary. Finally, she and Lily stood at the threshold with their suitcase, ready to depart. Lily was subdued, her usual energy dampened by fear. Sarah kissed Mrs. Garcia's cheek, thanking her again, then followed Michael and Noah out. They led her to Michael's car, a sleek sedan parked discreetly in front. Lily climbed into the back seat, silent. Sarah settled beside her, while Michael took the driver's seat and Noah got in front, phone in hand. Their small entourage pulled away from the curb, merging with evening traffic. The city lights began twinkling against the dimming sky. "You'll be safe at the hotel," Michael assured Sarah, casting a glance in the rearview mirror. "Noah's team will guard the entrance and your room will be under an alias. We can figure out next steps in the morning." Sarah held Lily's hand, wishing none of this were real. She glanced at the passing shops and intersections, memories of her everyday life overshadowed by this crisis. Lily's wide eyes stared through the window, watching the streets rush by. Sarah gently rubbed her daughter's shoulder, fighting the sting of tears. In her mind's eye, she saw the small changes in her apartment, evidence of a stranger's trespass. She pictured the threat notes, the stuffed bunny, the hateful message telling her to stay away from Michael. Yet here she was, in his car, leaning on his help more than ever. How could she possibly heed the warning now? Her only consolation was that Lily remained physically unharmed, and that people she trusted were taking action. If Cassian Holdings was truly behind this, perhaps soon the puzzle pieces would lock into place and the danger would evaporate. But until then, she was uprooted, wandering in a surreal state of fear and dependence. Night descended fully as they pulled into a quiet hotel parking lot on the nicer side of town. Lily stirred, yawning. Noah stepped out first, scanning the perimeter. Satisfied, he signaled Sarah and Lily to exit. Michael offered an armload of Lily's belongings, which Sarah accepted, then gently guided her and Lily inside. The lobby was hushed, with softly lit lamps and plush carpeting. The front desk attendant handed over a key card without fanfare, clearly prepped by Michael beforehand. Within minutes, they were in a suite on the third floor, where Lily's awe at the glossy space overcame her anxiety for a moment. She poked around the neatly made beds, the small kitchenette, even squealing at the view from the window, though it was mostly just a glimpse of the parking lot and the distant skyline. "You can see so many lights," Lily exclaimed, pressing her nose to the glass. Michael stood by Sarah, arms crossed, keeping a watchful eye on Noah, briefing 2 other security personnel stationed in the hallway. "There will be men on this floor all night," Michael said. "No one gets in without clearance." Sarah sank onto the edge of a bed, the weight of the day pressing down on her. "Thank you," she whispered again, hardly finding fresh words to express her gratitude. "I'm sorry it's come to this. You going to such lengths." His eyes softened and he crouched in front of her. "Don't apologize. I told you, I'm here no matter what. You and Lily didn't cause this mess. Someone else did." She nodded, swallowing back emotion. Lily hopped onto the bed beside them, yawning. The child's eyelids drooped, exhaustion finally catching up. Sarah gently coaxed Lily under the covers. She felt Michael's gaze on them, a look of concern and something warmer, a protective fondness she hadn't expected. With Lily nearly asleep, Michael stood, checking his watch. "I'll head out," he said quietly. "But if you need anything at all, call me or Noah. We're just a few minutes away." Sarah followed him to the door, lingering in the hallway. Noah offered a reassuring nod. "We'll keep watch," he said. "Try to rest tonight. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." She released a trembling breath. "Okay. Good night." Michael squeezed her hand briefly, then let go. She stepped back into the suite, locking the door behind her. It felt strange, being in a fancy hotel room under an alias with guards outside. Like something out of a crime drama. Yet it was her life now. Sighing, she returned to Lily's side, brushing the child's hair from her forehead as she slept. The lamp cast soft shadows across the plush carpet. Sarah stared at the ceiling, mind churning. Cassian Holdings, or whoever else might be behind this, had crossed the ultimate line by invading her home. Would they escalate further? Or had they delivered their final warning? Amid the uncertainty, one truth stood firm. She wouldn't face it alone. Michael, Noah, the security team, they were there. And despite her fears, Sarah found solace in that unity. If the enemy wanted to break her spirit, they'd soon discover she was stronger than they ever could have imagined, because she had no choice but to be strong. Lily's safety depended on it. Quietly, she reached over and turned off the lamp. Darkness enveloped the room, but Sarah stayed awake for a long time, one hand protectively on Lily's back, the other near her phone in case the night brought more shadows to their door. Morning filtered into the hotel suite through soft, cream-colored drapes. Sarah stirred on the bed where she'd spent the night beside Lily, the little girl's small body curled protectively against her mother's side. For a moment, she forgot where they were, accustomed to the cramped familiarity of their apartment. Then reality settled in. They were in hiding, in a guarded room booked under an alias because someone had invaded their home. She pushed herself upright, wiping away the film of restless sleep from her eyes. Lily's face remained peaceful, so Sarah gently rose, trying not to wake her daughter. Quietly, she stepped into the adjoining bathroom to freshen up. When she emerged, Lily was already awake, yawning and blinking at the unfamiliar room. "Mommy," Lily murmured, rubbing her eyes. "We're still at the fancy place?" Sarah mustered a gentle smile. "Yes, sweet pea. Just for now." Lily nodded, apparently accepting the answer for the moment. She slid off the bed, still in her pajamas. "I'm hungry," she announced, hugging her threadbare stuffed bunny. "Does this place have cereal?" A knock on the door interrupted them. Sarah tensed, but a quick check through the peephole revealed Michael standing outside carrying what looked like a paper bag. She exhaled in relief and cracked the door open. He offered a kind smile. "Good morning," he said quietly. "I brought breakfast, bagels, fruit, some cereal for Lily. May I come in?" Sarah glanced around, ensuring Lily was decently dressed, then let Michael enter. He set the bag on the small table near the window where Lily squealed at the sight of fruit cups and mini cereal boxes. Sarah's heart warmed to see the care he put into simple acts like this. She and Michael exchanged a quick glance. She read relief in his eyes as well. He was clearly glad to see them safe, though worry lingered like a shadow over his features. "How'd you sleep?" he asked in a low voice. Sarah shrugged lightly. "On and off, but we're okay. Thank you for sending the security." He nodded. "Noah's in the hallway. He said the night was quiet. No one suspicious tried to come near your room." Sarah's shoulders sagged, tension easing a fraction. "That's good news." Lily hopped onto a chair and started munching on an apple slice, humming a little tune. Michael crouched beside her. "Morning, Lily. Did you know I brought cereal just for you?" She grinned shyly, setting the apple down. "Thank you," she murmured, then dug into the box of colorful loops. Despite the precarious situation, Sarah found a flicker of normalcy in that moment. A father figure doting on a child, though in truth they were still navigating the delicate boundaries of what Michael truly was to Lily. After breakfast, Noah knocked, stepping inside for an update. "We analyzed your apartment last night," he told Sarah. "No obvious leads left behind, no prints we could match, no clues about how they got in. My team installed the new lock and tested the camera feed. If they try again, we'll catch them on video." Sarah clasped her hands together. "What about Cassian?" she asked. "Any proof they're involved?" Michael and Noah exchanged a look. "Not yet," Michael confessed, lips pressed tight. "They're too smart to leave direct evidence. But we did gather more intel. Cassian's CEO recently had a meeting with a known fixer who's been tied to intimidation tactics before. It's not concrete proof, but it raises suspicion." Sarah bit her lip. "So they might keep pushing?" "We'll assume so," Noah said. "And we'll be ready. For now, though, it's your call when you feel safe going back to the apartment. There's a chance the intruder only meant to scare you, which sometimes marks the end of their attempts." She glanced at Lily, still happily chewing cereal. "I can't keep Lily locked away forever. She needs her normal life. But I'm terrified they'll strike again." Michael rested a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "If you prefer, I can find you a temporary place, like a short-term rental or something better equipped for a child. You wouldn't have to stay in a hotel indefinitely." The thought made Sarah's heart twist in gratitude and reluctance. Accepting more of Michael's help felt like stepping deeper into his world, a place she feared might brand her as dependent or indebted. But Lily's safety eclipsed all else. Before she could respond, Lily hopped off her chair. "Mommy, are we going home?" she asked softly, eyes shining with uncertainty. Sarah knelt beside her. "Not yet, sweet pea. We'll figure it out soon, okay? But we'll stay somewhere nice for a little while longer." Lily nodded, though she looked worried. She held tight to her bunny, a child's only defense against the unseen threats. Sarah ruffled Lily's hair, forcing a smile. By mid-morning, they decided to check out of the hotel and move to a safe condo that Michael's firm used for visiting executives, a modern, furnished apartment in a secured building. It was quiet and discreet, with a doorman and extensive camera coverage. Noah recommended it as a better long-term option until the threat resolved. Sarah was uncomfortable letting Michael foot the bill, but Lily's wide eyes at the mention of a new place to stay convinced her not to argue. Michael drove them there, passing the city's bustling center. Lily gazed at the tall buildings with a child's awe. Sarah's chest fluttered with anxiety, but she tried to focus on the silver lining. At least Lily was safe and seemed excited about a new adventure. The condo turned out to be spacious but not ostentatious. 2 bedrooms, a sleek kitchen, and a living area with large windows overlooking a small park. Noah had men posted in the building, and the door to the unit had multiple locks. "This is too nice," Sarah murmured, surveying the gleaming appliances. "Really, Michael, you've done so much." He silenced her with a gentle shake of his head. "Please, let me do this. I'll sleep better knowing you're both somewhere secure." She looked down, emotion stirring in her chest. "I just don't know how I'll ever repay you." His voice softened. I'm not asking for repayment, Sarah. Heat rose to her cheeks, part shame and part something else, an awareness of how deeply he cared. She accepted the new keycard from Noah, who left 2 more security personnel in the lobby. Lily, meanwhile, raced to explore the condo, squealing when she saw the cozy reading nook in the corner of the living room. After settling in, Michael had to leave for a meeting, though he promised to return that evening with an update on the Cassian situation. Sarah and Lily spent the afternoon adjusting to their new space, unpacking a few clothes, finding spots for Lily's drawings. Lily squealed with delight at the wide windows, pressing her nose to the glass to watch a bird perched on the balcony railing. Around dinner time, the doorbell rang. Sarah's heart lurched, but checking the peephole revealed Michael carrying takeout bags. She relaxed, letting him in. The aroma of stir-fry and noodles drifted into the condo. Lily cheered, bounding over to see what goodies he'd brought. Michael spread the cartons on the small dining table, smiling as Lily hopped into a chair. He glanced at Sarah, his expression tinged with warmth. "Long day, huh?" She breathed out a rueful chuckle. "You could say that. Anything new from Noah?" "Some," he said, unstacking the boxes. "We've got partial confirmation that Cassian's fixer traveled to our town a few days ago. Hard to prove he's behind the break-in, but it's aligning with the timeline. Noah's working with a contact in law enforcement to see if we can bring charges. We're close, Sarah." Her throat tightened with cautious hope. "You think they'll stop?" He slid a bowl toward Lily, then turned to Sarah. "If we push them publicly, threaten a lawsuit or criminal charges, they might decide this isn't worth the trouble. Cassian's board members wouldn't stand behind tactics that risk scandal." Lily eyed them both, sensing the subdued tension. "Can I have noodles now?" she asked, making Michael grin. "Of course," he said, and they began dishing out portions. Despite the stress, the meal passed in a surprisingly pleasant manner. Lily giggled at Michael's attempts to use chopsticks, which ended in mild chaos as he dropped a chunk of chicken onto the table. Sarah teased him, and Michael's genuine laughter filled the condo with a warmth that felt strangely domestic. For a moment, Sarah let herself wonder if this was a glimpse of what life might be like, if the threat dissolved and normalcy prevailed. When Lily finished, she trotted off to the corner to draw. Michael and Sarah remained at the table. Candles flickered, their soft glow reflecting in the glass windows. Sarah took a sip of water, gathering courage for a question that had been nudging at her. "Michael, you're doing all this for us. Why?" she asked gently. "I mean, not just because you're a good person. It feels like there's more." He looked up, eyes thoughtful. "There is," he confessed quietly. "At first, I couldn't explain it. But after Lily called me Daddy, something in me shifted. Maybe it's because I grew up without a father. Or maybe I've just been lonely in my own life of deals and contracts. When I look at Lily, I see innocence worth protecting. And when I look at you," he swallowed, carefully choosing words, "I see someone strong, loving, who deserves support." Her pulse fluttered. She set her hand over his, feeling their warmth intersect. "I don't know how to handle that," she admitted. "I've been doing everything alone for so long. Depending on you, on anyone, feels scary." He squeezed her fingers lightly. "I'm not asking for anything in return, just let me be here." Sarah's eyes glistened, a tangle of gratitude, relief, and lingering apprehension. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll try." A beep from Michael's phone broke the moment. He checked it, frowning. "It's Noah," he said, reading. "They've made an arrest." Sarah jolted. "An arrest? Already?" Michael stood, scanning the text. "The fixer from Cassian. Police found evidence in his car, notes with your name and address. He's in custody now." Her heart soared, then hammered. "That means... It means he's likely the one behind the break-in, the threats, everything. Noah says Cassian's executives are scrambling to distance themselves, but we might finally have enough for charges." Sarah pressed a hand over her mouth, relief crashing in. "Oh my God!" She barely registered Lily's curious gaze as she rushed to the sofa, falling into it with shaky limbs. "So it's over? He's going to jail?" Michael hurried to her side, resting a hand on her shoulder. "We don't know how the courts will play out, but it's a huge step. With the evidence from the stuffed bunny note, the package, and the break-in, plus the data linking him to Cassian, he won't walk away easily." Tears burned at Sarah's eyes. She clung to Michael, letting the tidal wave of relief and exhaustion break over her. Lily ambled over, confused but sensing the grown-up's excitement. "Mommy?" she said softly, leaning on Sarah's knee. Sarah hugged Lily, pulling her into the embrace. Michael wrapped an arm around them both, an unplanned tableau of unity. "It means we're going to be safe," Sarah whispered, voice trembling. "For real this time." Lily smiled, not fully comprehending the danger that had loomed but understanding her mother's joy. The child pressed her face to Sarah's chest, murmuring, "That's good." Michael's voice, close to her ear, was thick with emotion. "You won't have to hide anymore, or move from your home. We can go back, fix anything that's broken." Sarah leaned back, wiping her tears. "Yes," she breathed, "and hopefully we can do that normal stuff we talked about, like taking Lily out to a fair, giving her the childhood she deserves." A watery chuckle escaped her. She looked at Michael. "Thank you. You saved us." He brushed a gentle hand across her cheek. "We saved each other, Sarah." They stayed in that embrace for a tender moment, Lily giggling softly as Michael's arm inadvertently tickled her side. And in that hush, lit by the overhead light and the glimmer of city lamps beyond the window, they felt the threat's weight lift. The Cassian operative was caught, the immediate danger subdued. Of course, there would be legal follow-through, but the darkest cloud had passed. Sarah exhaled a final tremor of stress. She smiled at Michael, glancing at Lily's bright eyes. Tomorrow she'd return to the diner and Lily would return to their real apartment, still modest, still humble, but home. The difference now was that they wouldn't be alone in their battles. Something deeper had blossomed between mother, daughter, and the kind millionaire who had opened his heart. As Lily slipped from their arms to grab her crayons, Michael threaded his fingers gently through Sarah's. The quiet understanding in his gaze said more than words. They had come together under the strangest of circumstances, through danger and fear. But from that crucible, a fresh bond emerged, one that promised hope, security, and maybe even love. Sarah squeezed his hand, a small, grateful smile tugging at her lips. "It feels like a new start," she whispered. Michael nodded, voice barely above a murmur. "It does. Let's see where it leads." In the warm glow of the condo, Lily's soft laughter filled the space, and Sarah allowed herself to believe that perhaps fate had brought them all together for a reason. The darkness had receded, giving way to a gentle dawn of possibilities. And for Sarah and Lily, for Michael too, the future finally felt bright, like a morning full of promise with hearts open to whatever came next. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.